Hey everyone, what is up? And welcome back for episode 54, I think, of Higurashi When They Cry. So, this intro is being recorded after the episode was recorded. I was initially thinking about mashing the last two, or this episode and the last one together, but this episode was long enough that I was like, that would be a really weird idea to intentionally combine two videos to make like a 5 hour video, right? That's just not necessary. Um, so well, I can tell you this is a good episode. I am finishing the chapter here. I'm not going to talk about the chapter itself. You're going to have to watch the video for that, obviously. I have to talk about it plenty at the end, and there will be another video with like a little bit of extra content that I did not do within this chapter. That I'll talk more about it because there's still some things I want to say that I didn't. I felt like I didn't touch on enough. But anyways, that's not what this is about. So let's talk about the last episode prior to this. And last episode was crazy. We had a humongous reveal, and I think this is the important part of the whole episode. Um, we have this sequence where Keiichi, he had just gotten out of talking with Rena, and she kind of rejects him because, like, as a friend, because he kept things from her. And so he goes and he feels like he has to tell his friends about his past, right? And he gets this, he gets this nice message of basically it matters who you are now, not who you were. But during this, like Keiichi's guilt, right? When Mion basically says something along the lines of like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, you wouldn't do that to me, would you? Right? If you learned, like, if I was hiding things from you, like, you wouldn't react that way. Like, you wouldn't, like, distance yourself from me. And he remembers chapter one in that moment. He remembers when he made Mion cry, right? By, like, he snapped on her right outside of the school, right? And that scene was crazy even back then, but seeing him remember it now, and not only does he remember it, he realizes that he was the crazy one finally, which is something obviously I've parroted for a while now, so seeing it confirmed was crazy, right? And he remembers all of chapter one, and he realizes that all of these events were innocuous. His friends were just trying to help him. And so it's not only do we finally get resolution as to who was crazy in chapter one and some of what was really going on, right? We also finally get this moment where things are coming together, the chapters, and I've been like, we knew, you knew it was coming, but finally seeing it, it's like, wow, this is amazing. And that was an amazing sequence, but he feels incredible guilt for the way he killed Mion and Rena. And so he starts crying about it, and he talks about what he did, and Rika approaches him and he's like, you remember, right? And it's like, oh snap, we're finally getting there. We're finally getting there, right? And we kind of have some conversations, right? And she basically says like, it's a miracle that you remembered, right? Like, you are amazing, Keiichi. Um, which I mean, that was just an awesome moment. What an awesome scene! And then right after this scene, which was already a banger, right? Arguably my favorite scene in the game, just because it's starting it's starting the culmination, right? And so I'm super excited to see where they go with that. Um, but right after this, we see the Sonozakis and the police force kind of work out some of their misunderstandings, which is a big moment, right? It's a big moment because there's been a lot of tensions between them for the whole game, right? And so seeing them peacefully work even something out, even if it's not literally everything, seeing them peacefully work something out is a really cool moment, right? Super cool moment. Um, and that's more or less the episode, but I mean, but okay, right at the end, I think. Let me make sure that I'm not like uh, thinking about what actually happened at the beginning of 12. Let me just load in, see where it is. Okay, so at the end of 11, I believe, we get a talk with Rena, and she talks about her come from behind victory. And we're going to see exactly what that means. What is she planning to do? Of course, I know what happens this episode. I will say nothing further for anyone who's following along blind. But there's this sense of what exactly is she planning? And you get that sense of dread, like this isn't going to go good, right? And so we're going to see What she's planning to do, possibly. Yeah, we'll see. I think you got a really good episode ahead. I hope you guys enjoy. I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow. So yeah, enjoy the video. Okay, so I took a bit of a break, but I am back. There should not be any music in the background now. We're going to see if we can finish this up. And we're just going to combine these two video segments, because unless this part ends up being ridiculously long, I figure they go together pretty well. So let's jump right into this. What I assume is the finale. If it's not, we'll figure something out. I did a conclusion, actually, so I can split it back up if I need to. Walking with only Mio to school made me miss Rena a lot.
どうしたのさ、ケイちゃん。さっきからキョロキョロしてさ。
なんでもないよ。
It was the same old path to school, but I felt nervous for some reason. I wonder what Rena meant when she said she was going to win a come-from-behind victory last night. My headphone wire has got caught under my chair. I couldn't stop feeling like something dangerous was going to happen. Yeah, for sure. Rena thought Mion was one of her enemies. She could be lying in wait to attack Mion with a knife. Or a hatchet.
大丈夫だって。レナがそんな短絡的なことをするわけないよ。
Okay, bro, come on.
まあ、仮にそうでも、自分の身くらい守れるからね。
How do you keep doing this? Mion said it brightly as if trying to tell me she wasn't afraid of anything. But I couldn't be optimistic like her, because I knew exactly what Rena was going through. Yeah. Rena must be determined by now, and she probably wouldn't mind dying fighting against Mion if she wasn't going to win anyway. Of course, that didn't mean she was definitely going to take violent action, but I couldn't deny the possibility either.
それよりおじさんが気にかかるのは、どうしてレナが急に変になっちゃったのか、その理由の方だね。
I would love to find that out. Was there any reason? I remembered the tragedy. I couldn't remember what made the world go crazy. But I remembered we got lost in that awfully scary world. It started with small things, and those small things continued to pile up one after another. If you thought about it calmly, you'd laugh, because it was a really stupid thing. But once those little tiny stupid things started to bother you, you couldn't ignore them. It was that kind of disease. If you could call it one. But there must have been a reason. There must have been a reason that made the world go crazy. But it must be such a small thing that you couldn't even notice. And unfortunately, the reason was very difficult to understand, and you wouldn't be able to figure it out until you died.
親戚にお医者がいてね、ちょっと聞いてみたんだけど、脳とかに腫瘍ができて、たまたまそれが珍しいところだったりすると、性格が急に変わったり、普段と別人みたいになってしまうことがあったりするんだって。
Yeah, I mean, it could be that if we've got rapidly growing and spreading tumors that seem stress
大昔は
related.
この病気が悪魔つきや狐つきなんて呼ばれて、オカルト的に脚色されてたこともあるんだってさ。
ってことはつまり脳という体の一部に起きた肉体的な病気ってわけか。
今回に関しては精神的と捉えてもいいかもしれないね。レナはリナ鉄平殺しの後かなり動揺していて、心が不安定になってた時期があった。
Yeah, so it was relatively easy for anything mental like that to affect her, I feel.
そんな時期に大石のバカタレが富武さんたちの事件を大げさに吹き込むもんだから。
Yeah.
大石さんって人もさ、高野さんのスクラップ帳に少し似てるとこがあるかもな。
へえ、どの辺が？
なんていうのかな、ひなみ沢村連続開始事件というものが存在しているというあたりについて盲信しているというか。
I don't know. Them being connected could be false, but I'd be kind of shocked.
現に5年連続で起こってるのにこんなことを言うのもなんだけど、俺さ、もともと連続事件なんて存在しないんじゃないかって思ってる。
It was true that the mysterious incidents happened 5 years in a row, but they were each solved individually. It was the same as a past you didn't need to talk about. We thought of them as a series of mysterious deaths, which is why we thought something was going to happen this year too. It led us to think that there was a conspiracy, and that the Sonozaki family was behind it. We connect those things to the series of mysterious deaths, but we shouldn't do that in the first place. Just like I tried to keep my distance from Rena when I found out about her dark past. Wasn't everybody trying to keep their distance from the dark past of Hinamizawa? Takano-san's scrapbooks are a good example. She dramatized both recent incidents and old cruel history, and she made feasible stories out of them, saying that the Sonozaki family was behind it all. Oishi-san did the same thing too. He was so convinced that the Sonozaki family was behind it all that it was making him interpret things the wrong way. I do kind of agree with that. In that sense, we could say Oishi-san believed in the same delusion as Rena.
その辺にはさ、何かあるごとに黒幕のように振る舞う園崎家の責任もあるんじゃねえのかな。この村では何かおかしなことがあれば全て園崎家の暗躍。それで決着をつけられてしまう魔法の言葉になっちゃってるんだよ。
Yeah, I kind of see where he's coming from.
例えて言えばほら、この世の現象は全てプラズマで説明できるみたいな感じだよ。
ほー。つまりそれは何を？園崎家が全部悪いってわけ？
そうだ。お前が全部悪い。よって、お前の名前は今日からプラズマミオンと呼ぶ。うわ、なんだかレスラーみたいな名前だな。
はあはあ、プロレスラー大いに結構。
She's fine with Plasma Mion, I guess.
そうだけいちゃん、コブラツイストって知ってる？
やめろ。このクソ熱いのに絡みつくな。いててて。
Should have messed with her. But I think it's good that there's some sense of normalcy.
おはようございますですわ、
Despite
ケイチさん。
everything.
おはようなのです。
Satoko and Rika-chan looked a little sad when they saw only the two of us. If the three of us came to school together like always, they would have been really happy. But our classmates were as noisy as usual. Nobody seemed to make a big deal about Rena's absence. Chie-sensei was going to be here soon, and she'd start morning homeroom. Everyone was fooling around as if they didn't want to miss a second of the time until then.
ねえ、今日は臭い。窓閉めて。
バーカ。窓を閉めたらもっと暑くなるんだよ。
I'm kinda concerned. What? It smelled like gasoline or something, and it really stank. Someone from the forestry service must have been putting gasoline into the construction equipment or something. Some students near the windows were making a fuss because they wanted to close the windows to shut out the smell. Our school wasn't a normal school compared to others. We were using a part of the forestry service building. Unusual things like this happen sometimes. I feel like this is somehow
こんな
like...
の大したことないって。
Dude, right now, at this point in the game, anything like this, I'm like, no, this is not good.
いつだったかな。貝塚いぶきを剪定した枝葉をトラック山盛り何杯分か運び込んできたことがあってさ、あれはひどかった。あの独特の刺激臭は頭痛を起こさせるよね。
貝塚いぶきって何ですの？お野菜の名前なのです。たまにカレーに入ってますのですよ。
今度スーパーに行ったら探してみろ。
よくわかんないけど、最初はリカとケイチさんに毒味をさせた方が良さそうでございますわね。
Always a good plan.
あれ、俺たちのボールがねえ。王女、お前がまた隠したんだろう。
The boys seemed to be looking for their ball for a while, and they yelled at Satoko.
誰がそんなものを隠しますの？どうせ隠すならもう少し気の利いたものを隠しましたよ。
ほらほら、先生来たよ。みんな席に着きな。
I just have such a bad
はい、
feeling.
皆さん、席についてください。
I feel like they wouldn't have lingered on that smell for literally no reason, you know? But maybe they did, I don't know. I kept thinking about Rena the whole time during class. I thought about what she said last night. I wonder what her come from behind victory means. According to Takano-san's delusion, the masterminds behind the bioterrorism were the three families and a group of fanatical believers that controlled those three. In other words, the Sonozaki family. What could Rena do alone against them? Mion lived with her grandmother, the leader of the Sonozaki family. There were only 2 of them in the house. It was possible that Rena would try to break into their house with a knife. But I already come up with that possibility last night. That's why I called Mion and warned her. On the way to school this morning, Mion told me some bodyguards from the Corps had been at her house since this morning. She told me she'd be guarded herself, too. There was a black car parked near the school gate. They must have been the bodyguards. But according to Takano's parasite theory, the battle wouldn't end just by attacking the leader of the Sonozaki family. According to the delusion she believes in, the conditions of her victory were more complicated than that. She needed to expose the group of fanatics who were behind the Sonozaki family, and she needed to destroy their research on the parasite. Plus, Rena didn't have much time left, thanks to that suspicious poison she mentioned. But how exactly could she win a come-from-behind victory under circumstances like that? She might interpret that the town council are the group of fanatics. If so, she might attack them the next time they have a meeting at the shrine. The town council meets once a month at most. It would be hard to believe that they were holding a meeting today. She probably thought the place researching the parasite is the Irie Clinic. Rena suspected that there was something fishy about the clinic from the beginning, and that suspicion must have changed to certainty in her head by now. Did that mean she was going to attack the clinic? This wasn't like an action movie. What could she do all by herself? Was she going to start a fire? No, that would be pointless. Yeah, is she going to start a fire? Also, I smelled gasoline earlier. In order to expose the conspiracy, she'd have to get proof that they were actually studying the parasite. Was she going to break into the clinic and get questionable, weird samples? The last problem of all was how much time she had left. If she believed she didn't have much time left, especially under desperate, disadvantageous conditions, she might try to stab whoever she thought of as an enemy. But Rena sounded like she really believed she would regain her happy and peaceful days after everything was over. Rena probably meant she was going to stay alive and win. Was there something like an antidote? It didn't have to be real. There is. I wonder... I don't know that she believes it, though. Right? She was literally offered it. It didn't have to be real. As long as it was an antidote to Rena's delusion, it didn't matter what it was. It could even be the water you wash your vegetables with. But if she thought she could get the antidote so easily, she wouldn't have been so desperate about the time she has left. The antidote must be difficult for her to get. The easiest place for that in her delusion was that it was hidden somewhere in the clinic. Putting it all together like that, I felt like Irie and his clinic were in danger. Now that I thought about it, the elderly people in the village, including the members of the town council, hung out in the waiting room of the clinic all the time. If most of the board members happened to gather there, for her, it'd be the perfect place to attack. I told Mion about that during the lunch break.
普段ならそんなバカなって言いたいところだけど、その可能性を全く否定できなくもないからね。
I mean, yeah, normal Rena obviously would not attack the clinic while armed, right? Like, that's not a thing she would do in a normal situation, you know?
本家に電話してみるよ。診療所にも人を配置するように言っとく。
Really spreading them thin. Mion didn't object to my crazy idea. She put down her chopsticks and went to the teacher's office to make a phone call.
先ほどからなんだか物騒な話でございますけど、本当にレナさんがそんな恐ろしいことをなさいますの？
I hope she doesn't, but
診
something's
療所
definitely
を
gonna
そうなん
happen.
て信じられませんわ。
するかもしれない。しないかもしれない。でもな、怒っちまったらおしまいなんだよ。惨劇に抗うってことは、起こさないように戦うってことなんだから。
何事もないことを祈りたいのです。
That would be convenient for you, for sure. Oh. Like, what? What? Like, these are the dialogue options? Are we serious? I mean, like, I'll check out the other one later, so we'll just quick save here, but, like, option just, yeah, I guess. I hope nothing will happen.
わかりました。若いのを2人ほど診療所に送ります。
まさかとは思うけどね。何をやらかすか分かったもんじゃない。
姿を見たら直ちに引っ取られてしまって構いませんか？
本当は嫌なんだけどな。どうしようね。
先日の会合で竜宮レナを確保して警察に引き渡すことで決着しています。ですので引っ取られても一応筋は通ります。
うちの対面じゃなくてレナの心情的に気の毒だなってこと。できたら本当に静かに決着したいんだけどね。
まあお若いですから、人さえ殺さなければ大抵はごめんなさいで済みますよ。
As long as she
じゃ
didn't do
あアウト
that.
かもだ。
いえいえ、見つからなければセーフですから。
Bro said, valid point.
セーフ、セーフ。沖宮の界隈では、あの二人の失踪を気にする者はいません。何かのヤバい話を踏んで、夜逃げしたんだろうということになっています。あの程度のゴロつき、次から次へです。ですから、セーフ、セーフ。
アウトだのセーフだの、私ら野球拳でもやってるわけまあいいや。それじゃあくれぐれもよろしくお願いします。
了解しました。では、ひっ捕らえてよろしいんですね。
ちゃんとタッチアウトにするんだよ。
That sounds like a yes to me.
クロスプレーなんかにしないようによろしく頼みます。
I couldn't help but have a silly chat with Kasai-san. When I put the phone down, I sensed Chie-sensei was looking at me. No wonder. She'd been able to hear the conversation clearly in this tiny room. Chie-sensei put her spoon down, and with a sad look on her face, she asked the following.
今の電話は竜宮さんをめぐる話ですか？まあ、はい。園崎さん、竜宮さんはどうして家出をしちゃったんでしょう？
She's gone a little kooky.
お友達として何か知ってはいませんか？
It was hard for anyone to understand Rena's situation, except for me and Kei-chan. So most of them thought that Rena just ran away from home. But after she did, the cops made too much of a fuss over it. Oishi stupidly believed that the scrapbooks were a big scoop, and he overreacted in trying to find Rena. He had patrol cars running around everywhere in the village. He even used the town council's phone directory to find her. So people in the village thought Rena did something wrong and was trying to run from the cops. What was going to be difficult for me, more than finding her, was to make up a story to retrieve Rena's honor after they detain her. What about this? Rena went for a walk, fell down and hit her head on the edge of some tofu, and lost her memory. Oishi misunderstood something big time, and he thought she was a criminal. It was too easy. Anyway, we did make it clear that Oishi was the one who misunderstood everything in the meeting the other day. I had to make the best use of his name while he was feeling down for once. What I'd have to do was to not make a big deal about this situation, and to create an environment that allowed Rena to forget everything that happened in order to get her life back together as soon as possible.
大丈夫ですよ先生。レナは今ちょっと病気になってるだけです。それを警察の某ベテラン刑事が素敵に勘違いして話をややこしくしただけです。
A fat cop is crazy.
まさか先生、レナが悪いことをして逃走中なんて信じちゃいないですよね。それはもちろんですけど、でも家出することによってご家族におかけしている迷惑を考えれば悪くないということはありません。
Yeah, man, her poor dad in this situation. She had a fight with her father, and she ran away from home for a little while. She acted childish, and that's all. Maybe that'd be the best story to go with.
何か悩みがあったのでしょうか。
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
それに気づけなかった私は教師失格ですね。
I feel like it can be hard to notice that thing sometimes.
一度竜宮さんとじっくりお話がしたかったです。先生、ちょっとヘビーに考えすぎです。もうちょっとリラックス。プチ家出なんて今時珍しくないですって。
Yeah.
竜宮さんがこのまま不良になってしまって悪いことを始めたらどうしましょう。
That would be unfortunate. She seems real distraught over that idea. Man, I hope Rena doesn't do anything crazy, but she's definitely going to. Ryugu-san becomes a bad kid. She does something bad and gets arrested by the police. It's her teacher's responsibility. I'll be dishonorably discharged. I can't eat curry anymore. I'm dead. Bro. God. I love the flow chart there. Like the use of the arrows. Chie-sensei seemed comically upset by her own imagination. It looked funny, so I decided to leave her alone. I made to leave the teacher's office to go back to the classroom, but right then, the phone rang.
はい、もしもし、ひなみ沢文庫でございます。
Chie-sensei had to answer the phone all day today because the principal was on a business trip. Is this for her? I exited to the hallway. Then I heard the tone of her voice change.
今、どこにいるんですか?
What? I yelled and looked back at her. It was probably Rena. She called the school. I tried to go back inside the teacher's office, but Chie-sensei gestured at me not to come in. Chie-sensei acknowledged what Rena was saying several times, and then she looked up at the clock.
わかりました。今からすぐ行きます。先生との約束ですよ。
Oh no. What is she doing? She said only that, put the phone down, and got her purse out of her locker.
院長、先生は休養ができました。しばらく表へ出ますので、みんなを自習させてください。
Bro, why do I feel like Chie's about to die? I know I keep saying that, but I do want to point out that she seemed to think Chie was embroiled in this conspiracy, so I'm worried that she is actually going to do something to Chie. She took her car key out from her purse. It was obvious that she was going to see Rena somewhere.
先生、今の電話はレナ。以上です。よろしく頼みますよ、院長。
Chie-sensei completely ignored me and she ran out into the hallway. She ran to the schoolyard and got into her car. The moment her car left through the gate, I ran out to the schoolyard myself. You literally have, like, goons. Tell them to follow. I headed for the black car parked near the gate and knocked on the window.
お疲れ様です。今のところ異常ありません。
違う。今出て行った先生の車を追って。多分、行く先にレナがいる。
了解っす。
レナは警戒心が強いから注意してね。捕まえたら有無を言わさずに本家放り込んで、葛西の指示に従うこと。私の友人だよ。怪我なんかさせたら許さないからね。
Rena must have told Chie-sensei that she wanted to talk to her alone. I could tell that easily from the way she ignored my question. I did feel a little bad for ruining their promise, but it was very important that we caught her before she did something wrong. We could still make up an excuse that she was just wandering around because she had a fight with her father and ran away from home. But if she set fire to the clinic or something, there would be nothing I could do. The car made a rough U-turn on the gravel road, and it chased after Chie-sensei's car at full speed. I watched the car until it was gone. All I could do now was to pray that this would be settled calmly. Yeah, man, we'll see.
みんな午後の授業は自習になったよ。というわけで、おとなしく席について何かやること。
自習？
Mion ran up to me and spoke quietly.
レナから電話があった。
本当か？
うん。ついさっき職員室に電話が。千恵先生が指定された場所に会いに行ったみたい。
レナのやつ、一体どういうつもりなんだ？
There's no way in a time of crisis she called Chie for help, right? I don't believe it, right?
わかんない。とにかく、うちの車に先生の後を追わせてる。レナには悪いけど、そこで踏んづかまえる。
うまくいくといいな。
荒ごとには慣れてる連中だよ。任せとこ
う。じゃあ捕まえれば一件落着なのか？
だね。そしたらとりあえず病院に放り込むよ。きっと専門の医者が見たらなんだってくらいに典型的な何かの病気だよきっと。
No, they won't.
強迫性、心因性、ストレスなんたらとか、多分そんな感じのやつ。
While we were spending our afternoon studying peacefully, the members of the Sonozaki family would capture Rena, who was waiting for Chie-sensei somewhere. The problem would be solved. It wasn't going to be easy after that, but I was sure Mion would take good care of her. And in the end, everybody would understand that Rena just ran away from home because of a silly fight with her father. A happy ending. No.
一件落着。
I wish, man. Mion winked at me. She looked like she already thought everything was over. But that just didn't sound right to me. I couldn't see any connection between Rena and Chie-sensei. It was hard to explain, but there was something wrong. I wasn't saying that they didn't get along. Rena was a good student, so Chie-sensei had a good relationship with her. But I just didn't understand what Rena wanted from Chie-sensei. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. While I was thinking about it, the door opened and one of our classmates came back from the bathroom. With Rena. Oh. I kind of had a feeling this was going to happen because she called off the bodyguards. The instant that happened, it was like, oh.
Rena!
Yikes. So that's not good. Okay, looks like this didn't exist.
みんな起立起立
Man, she's holding the place up! I'll be honest, the console version of this one looks a little off to me.
教室の真ん中に集まって
Everyone gasped in surprise. Even Chie-sensei couldn't make everybody go so quiet all of a sudden. Yeah, having a weapon will do that. Rena was gripping the shoulder of the student who came back from the bathroom. In her other hand, she had a big, scary-looking hatchet. It was the same one she had the other night. Everybody immediately understood that Rena had taken a hostage.
みんな教室の真ん中に集まって机は周りにどけちゃってね
Nobody grasped what she was asking us to do. We all froze. Rena was the only one who was smiling. It was terrifying.
みーちゃん、委員長でしょ。みんなに指示して。
レナ、あんた何をやってんの？
Yeah, this ain't nothing normal, Mion. I regret to inform you. Bam. A loud noise washed out Mion's voice. Rena hit the teacher's desk really hard with her hatchet. She pulled out the hatchet, making an ominous ripping noise. There was now a line of violence carved plainly into the desk. Uh-oh. She broke it. Chie-sensei's gonna get mad when she comes back. Bro, you've got bigger problems than that! No, that wasn't it. What the hell?
みーちゃんはやっぱりダメだね。じゃあケイチくんに頼むよ。ケイチくんだけは最後まで私の仲間なんだよね。だから信じていいんだよね。
Rena, your eyes. You look so scary. I've never seen eyes like that in my life. Incorrect, but your eyes are full of insanity. Why are people afraid of insanity? Insanity means that a person doesn't share the same values and the same common sense as us. For example, say a thief breaks into your house and he ties you up. You'll get scared and wonder if he's going to stab you before he leaves. But you hope that the thief has feelings too, and that he's not going to kill you for no reason. No matter how bad the person is, we tend to believe in his goodwill as long as we share the same values, the same common sense, and the same morals as him. But we can't expect goodwill from somebody who doesn't have those things. We can't expect goodwill from a person who can't communicate with us. When a burglar has a knife and you beg him not to hurt you, you expect him to listen to you and show you mercy. In other words, you can still communicate with him. But if he doesn't have the ability to communicate, he's just like a monster that's trying to attack you, or like the blade of a guillotine that's falling down on you. You fear him because you can't communicate with him. That's insanity. It was the same fear we were feeling towards Rena at that very moment. She looked like a human just like us, but there was no room for her to communicate with us like a normal person could do. Everybody understood that fear instinctively.
ケイチくん、机をどけさせて、教室の真ん中に広場を作って。
Bro, why do I feel like she's a straight up about to execute Mion?
わかった。みんな、レナが言うのに従おう。
Rena was like a barrel of gunpowder at that moment. She seemed really calm and quiet, but she could explode any minute. When she did, I doubt she'd show us any mercy. She probably wouldn't hesitate to use that hatchet on us. That's right, just like how I didn't feel guilty or hesitate to kill Rena and Mion. Everybody went all quiet while pushing the desks against the wall to make a space where Rena wanted it. Rena, saying they were moving too slow, hit the blackboard with the hatchet, making a horrible noise. Every time she did that, she left an equally horrible scar on the blackboard, the thing that we looked at most in the school.
じゃあケイチくん、みんなのロッカーから縄跳びを出してもらえるかな。それを使ってみんなを後ろ手で縛ってね。
What the hell?
俺、縛るのとか下手くそなんだよ。多分、上手に縛れないぞ。
後でちゃんと縛れているか全員のを調べる。
Bro, he's trying to defuse this situation, but there's not much you can do, man. I don't like... Jesus.
ゆるい人はその場で殺しちゃうからしっかり縛ってあげてね。
I think everybody's gonna understand if Keiichi goes along with this at this point. We were still kids. We saw the word kill all the time. It was used a lot in comic books and cartoons after all. So normally you'd assume we'd be used to hearing the word kill. But when Rena said she'd kill us, it sounded so frightening. I never heard something like that before in my life. To Rena, our lives were like cards she could use for negotiation. She'd get rid of one card every time somebody refused her request. Get rid of? Damn it! Why do we use such scary words like get rid of for simple things like playing cards? Anyway, there were about 20 students in the class. That was a little bit too many for Rena to handle. She might get rid of one or two just to set an example. I decided to do what Rena said because I didn't want her to lose her temper. I got out everybody's jump ropes from their lockers.
じゃあみんな、ケイチくんは後ろ手にどんどん縛っていって。きっちり縛るんだよ。ケイチくんは私の味方だもん。だからわざとゆるくなんか縛ったりしない。ね。
Mio tried to make eye contact with me. If everybody was tied down, we wouldn't be able to stop her from occupying the school. There were more than 20 students in this class. Half of them were boys, but most of them were smaller than Rena. But there were enough people here to overpower her. But if we did that, Rena would probably hit her hostage with the hatchet, and she'd use the hatchet to attack the rest of us without hesitation. It'd be a bloody battle. I'm sure somebody would get hurt if we tried to overpower her. The hostage would be seriously injured, or maybe even die. If that happened, it was over. No matter how hard we tried to cover up, she'd never be able to live peacefully like before. Mion seemed to understand that too. I could tell from Rena's eyes that she wasn't going to go easy on us. If somebody showed defiance, she'd break the hostage's head open immediately. Of course, Rena had done that before. She'd probably do it again with no hesitation. But as long as we did what she said, we could prevent that bloody tragedy. If we could somehow solve the situation without shedding any blood, with Mion's influence, we might still be able to pretend that this never happened. At the least, we had to make sure she didn't kill anyone.
従おう。ケイちゃん、
Was that even...
従おう。
Was that Keiichi? Mion tried to think of ways to overpower Rena, but she couldn't come up with any good ideas to save the hostage. That's how easy it would be for Rena to kill them. The best thing to do at the time was to wait for a chance without agitating her further. Mion lay down on the floor, and everyone else followed suit, sluggish with terror. And I was left alone, standing rooted to the spot with jump ropes in my hands. All my classmates were lying face down on the floor, while Rena was pointing the hatchet at the hostage, watching our every move from behind the teacher's desk. I just stood frozen in the middle of it all.
ケイチ君にはまだまだ手伝ってもらうことがたくさんあるの。だから早くして。あんまり時間がかかると何人かが死んでしまうかもしれない。
Jesus Christ, Rena. Some of the little kids started crying when they heard the word die.
大丈夫だよみんな。ケイチ君がきっと助けてくれるから。だからきっと。
Well, we're seeing crazy Rena for real this time. It's not like chapter 1 where it was us that was crazy. She is just crazy. Damn it! What a bold threat. She said I was her friend, but she was just playing with the meaning of the word. I was the last person who could still fight against Rena under these circumstances. But it wasn't going to be easy to overpower her by myself. I wasn't sure if I could do that. Even if I tried to act tough, once Rena pointed the hatchet at somebody's neck, it was over. I shouldn't fight against her for now. I should just wait for a chance. As long as Rena was alone, there would be a chance. She made me tie them up because she couldn't do that by herself. There was a limit to what she could do because she was by herself. If we could cover this up somehow before Chie-sensei came back, we'd still be able to pretend like we were kidding around. I finally realized something. I realized why Rena called Chie-sensei to meet with her. In order for Rena to take over the classroom, she needed to get rid of Chie-sensei. Chie-sensei had a very strong sense of justice. Even if Rena had a gun, she wouldn't hesitate to overpower her. She was the kind of teacher who would risk her life for her students. Rena needed to figure out how to get rid of Chie-sensei. That was the key to her plan. Rena probably thought about attacking her from behind at first, but there was a risk there, as Chie-sensei was a grown-up woman, so she probably thought attacking her directly wasn't a wise choice. Yeah, it was just a distraction. So, naturally, the next option was to lure her out somewhere. Rena called Chie-sensei and told her she wanted to talk to her in private, in order to lure her out to someplace far from here. Most people, including Chie-sensei, thought Rena was just running away from home. So, Chie-sensei must have thought Rena had some problems she wanted to talk to her about. It was too easy to deceive her. Yeah, the problem is that Mion also, had to, go and send her bodyguards. Now, this is the real question. Where did she make the phone call from? She probably used the phone in the school. Well, not in school, to be exact. She probably used the phone on the second floor of the school. The one belonging to the forestry service. Yeah, probably. This school was using part of the forestry service building, but this particular location was more of a branch office, so it's not like somebody was here all the time. Rena knew that, and she had probably been hiding there for a while. She called the phone on the first floor from the second floor, and she made Chie-sensei leave the school. I didn't think it was a coincidence that the principal was on a business trip today. She'd probably snuck into the school yesterday. She saw the principal's schedule, learned how to call the phone on the first floor from the second, and carried out her plan. She planned it perfectly. Yeah, I knew it. Rena was insane. but I knew she was also actually really calm. She was possessed by her delusion, but she was also unbelievably calm about it. Yeah, you've been there. So, she could still think fast. I knew that very well because I'd been through the same thing before. What was worse is that Mion's bodyguards were gone. Mion told them to follow Chie-sensei because she thought Chie-sensei was going to meet with Rena. Damn it, everything seemed to be working out in her favor. Yeah, no kidding.
しまったぞ。
I tied up the last person and I looked in Rena's direction. If I didn't tie them up really tightly, Rena would kill them. When I tied them too tightly, they suffered in pain. Their pained cries made me feel useless.
ありがとうケイチくん。ケイチくんを疑りはしないけど、一応全員を調べるね。ケイチくんは頭の上で手を組んでうつ伏せに寝ててね。これは全員に言うけど、私の断りなく立ち上がったら殺す。
Jesus, man.
本人も殺すし、見せしめでランダムにもう一人殺す。
Jesus Christ.
ランダムじゃよくないね。じゃあこうしよう。言うことを聞かなかった子と出席番号に10を加えた子を殺すにしようかな。例えば岡村くんが言うことを聞かなかったとする。そうすると出席番号11番渡辺くんが一緒に殺されちゃう。わかる？
Yeah, I mean, knowing directly that you're responsible, like, if you defy them, you're getting another person killed, knowing who it is, too. I don't know who could be bold enough to do that.
常に2人死ぬの。歯向かっても自分の命一つじゃ責任が取れないってこと。よーく胸に刻んでおくんだよ。
How awful. She totally understood how to threaten people. Normally, you stand against an attacker at your own risk. If you fail, you're going to die. But if you were responsible for someone else, then you couldn't try to resist. You can't risk somebody's life with your own decisions.
全員ちゃんと縛れてるね。ケイチくん、縛るの下手くそって言ってたけど、結構うまいよ。自信持っていいよ。じゃあ、ケイチくんは立って。
It was too late to fight back. I followed her orders. I just had to wait for a chance. We could still turn this into some kind of a bad joke. I had to do something. Anyway, what were you planning to do, Rena? Don't tell me this is the come-from-behind victory you were talking about. Bro. I mean, this is bad.
沖宮 TS より前者へ。沖宮 TS より前者へ。
Please clutch up.
南沢営林署にて籠城事件発生。人質多数。前者は至急南沢営林署へ向かわれたし。
Well, I guess they're showing up. So, I mean, what is her plan from here?
クマちゃん、遅れて申し訳ない。状況は？
They found Rena.
ご苦労様です。本日午後1時頃、ひなみ沢営林署内のひなみ沢分校区画にて教室占拠が発生しました。当時教室にいた生徒25名全員が拘束されている模様。犯人側の第一要求は営林署敷地内への一切の立ち入りの禁止と当保へのホットラインの確保です。
She wanted the police.
ってことは初めっから警察と交渉する気ってことですか。どういうつもりだ。
あと犯人は交渉人に大石さんを指名してます。犯人は竜宮玲奈。
竜宮さんが？わかりました。いいですよ。
I guess
な
so.
りゃ腐れんです。とことんお付き合いさせてもらいましょう。
Also, they used Rena, which I kind of wonder if that's a coincidence. I mean, they haven't really been using it like around here, so it might just be the name that they know her as, but... Because, I mean, Rena's more of a nickname, but... Rena might be more accurate right now. Oishi gave a crooked smile.
竜宮玲奈以外に犯人がいるか不明です。カーテンが閉められているので、状況も一切確認できていません。
通報者に選挙時の様子は聞いてませんか？
いえ、竜宮玲奈からの直接の犯行声明でした。よって内部の状況は一切不明。 担任は犯行直前に竜宮レーナの電話呼び出しを受け、遠方に呼び出された間の犯行でした。
計画的ですね。
Yep.
営林署側の人間は人質には？
今日は営林署職員は不在でした。よって生徒25名のみ。
Again, well planned.
生徒数は担任が出席簿で確認した人数です。
それプラス犯人ってわけか。竜宮レイナ以外に犯人らしき人影は？
いえ、何度かカーテンから覗く人影がありましたが、いずれも竜宮レイナ本人でした。ですが規模他を考えて、おそらく最低でももう一人二人はいると予想されます。
I feel like Keiichi's gonna do something really bold
Yeah.
whenever the police go in.
単独犯かもしれませんよ。
Rena and Keiichi was a true believer in Mio Takano's scrapbooks. According to those scrapbooks, the entire village was Rena and Keiichi's enemy. She didn't have anyone she can trust. However, Oishi had also believed in Mio Takano's delusion. It was possible that someone who was influenced in the same way was following Rena and Keiichi.
おいさん、校長と担任です。
ああ、どうもどうも、千恵先生。
Hi, Chie.
大丈夫ですか？
That's a valid response. Oishi ran up to Chie-sensei, who was crying with a handkerchief held up to her face.
レナちゃんはとても真面目ないい子なんです。こんなことをするなんて何かの間違いに決まっています。
There's no mistake that it's her doing it. I'll say that.
マニュアル通りなら最近の竜宮さんの状況についてお聞きするところなんですがね。多分竜宮さんに限っては先生より私の方が詳しいように思います。まあ気を落とされずになんとか穏便に解決しますからご安心を。
I feel like Keiichi's gonna die to stop her. Maybe that's what's gonna happen. I feel like Keiichi's not escaping this chapter alive. Chie-sensei was huddled over, and Oishi didn't think he could say anything to her. On the contrary, the principal was staying strong, trying to figure out how to take care of the situation.
大石殿、もしできるなら人質の交換を申し出たい。
What?
ぜひ私と子供たちを交換していただきたい。
校長先生、それは私がやります。私が悪いんです。
先生方、どうかご自分を責められないでください。先生方には校内の状況についていろいろとお聞きしたいことがありますので、ご協力をお願いいたします。
We just gotta hope there's no dead children.
ボンチ君、図面の方で話を聞いてあげてください。
The blueprint?
失礼します。1号車の無線に高杉課長です。
はいはい、もしもし。
大石さん、ご苦労さん。状況の大体は熊谷君に聞いたよ。犯人は未成年だそうだね。マスコミ規制の方を厳重に頼むよ。
分かってます。あと犯人側が私を交渉人に指定してきてるようですが、問題ありませんかね？
竜宮レーナの件は先日の寄生虫の話以外よく知ってる。その流れなら犯人は君のことをまだ味方だと思ってくれているんだと思う。
That's almost certainly exactly what she thinks.
大石君以外には務まらない。くれぐれもよろしく頼むよ。
本当はすっごく嫌なんですがね。ちょっと今回はいろいろとお騒がせした責任を感じてますので、罪滅ぼしに一つ。
おいさん、車載電話に犯人です。
早速ご指名の電話が来ました。早速出ることにします。ありがとう。はい、もしもし、大石です。
大石さんですか？
Oh, it's blood red now. Even her vision is tinted.
どうも、竜宮です。
どうもどうも、大石です。
車載電話って電波とかが悪いんですか？たまにちょっと聞こえにくくなりますね。
私と同じでね、定年間近なんですよ、きっと。
Oishi and I exchanged friendly words. A long, long cord trailed through the hallway from the teacher's office. The cord extended further to the phone on the podium in the classroom.
では、本題に入りますね。まず最初に、あなたが交渉人たる資格があるか。
自信ないな。お伺いします。
大石さんは、私の味方ですよね。
当然じゃないですか。あなたと私で、園崎家の陰謀を暴こうじゃないですか。
Let's hope. Oishi answered without hesitation. Was he still my ally? Or was this sly detective just saying what I wanted to hear? Option 2. Either way, I only had Oishi to depend on. If I couldn't trust him, I was stuck. There would be nothing else I could do.
ケイチ君も一時期は私が言ってることを信じてくれなかったんだよね。でも今は信じるでしょ。
Keiichi-kun was sitting on the floor facing away from me with his head resting in his hands.
今はもう私の仲間で味方だもんね。
ああ、そうだ。
I mean, literally, what else is he supposed to say, man? Remember Yugu asked Keiichi Maibara if he was her comrade, but I couldn't hear his voice. Was she trying to tell me that Keiichi Maibara was still alive? Or that he was being forced to obey her because of the hostages?
前原さんも竜宮さんの味方なんですね。心強いことです。でもあなたも一時期前原さんを少し疑われていたじゃないですか。
モデルガンの事件を聞いてなんて人だろうって思った。でも過去の事件で今を見損なっちゃいけない。それらを踏み台にして私たちはより良い理想の自分になれるように成長していかなくちゃならないんだから。
That's a crazy thing for someone in this situation to be saying.
とてもいいことを言いますね。まさにその通りです。
だから私たちは許し合ったの。だからケイチ君のことを私はもう疑わない。ケイチ君は仲間。
わかりました。
Something like that.
ならばそれは私にとってもケイチ君は仲間ということですね。ケイチ君に私がよろしくと言ってると伝えてください。
後で言っておきますね。
ケイチ君にも新しい仲間としてご挨拶がしたいです。受話器に出てもらうことはできますか？
The conversation stopped suddenly. That made me nervous. Did I say something wrong?
いいよ、ケイチ君。大石さんから電話だよ。
I heard some rattling and rustling on the other side of the phone.
もしもし、前原です。
He sounded monotone. Unable to disobey, Keiichi Maibara must have been pretending to follow Rena Ryugu's orders.
どうもどうも、前原さん。沖宮署の大石です。この度はお世話になります。お互い頑張りましょう。
はい、よろしくお願いします。
竜宮さんは今何をしてますか？
教室の中を歩いてますよ。
前原さん、イエスならはい。ノーなら A と相槌を打ってください。
Smart moves.
あなたは竜宮さんが何を要求しようとしているか知っていますか？
ええ。
That answer told me for sure. Keiichi Maibara wasn't Rena Ryugu's accomplice. There's no way Rena wouldn't tell her accomplice what she wanted after planning a hostage situation like this. How would he help someone who wouldn't even tell him what she wanted?
担当直入にお聞きします。あなたは竜宮レナの味方？いえいえ、質問を変えます。あなたは竜宮レナに
Yes.
はい。
Yes. There you go. The other guys in the car listening in on our conversation raised their fists in victory.
犯人は竜宮レナの一人だけ？
はい。
If she was the only suspect, then we could respond appropriately. I guess nobody else believed in Takano's scrapbooks. If so, my being fooled was even more embarrassing. Yeah, no lie. That is a little embarrassing. But as I thought about my next question, I heard the phone being taken away from Keiichi. Rena came back on the line.
ね、ケイチ君は味方でしょ？
ねえ、そうでした。とても頼もしいですよ。
で、今度は大石さんが話してくれる番。前の電話で約束した園崎家関係への一斉捜査はどうですか？
Jeez.
秘密の研究施設は発見できましたか？
Well, about that, I had to decide on what to say. Should I tell her we conducted raids or not? Maybe she already knew we didn't raid. Maybe she was just testing me.
今ですね、県警の防隊と公安部で一斉捜査作戦を準備中なんです。何しろ市内全域を一斉にやりますからね。調整に多少の時間が。
遅すぎる！大石さん、私たちは今、鹿骨市が置かれている緊急的危機についてよく理解し合っているんじゃなかったでしたっけ？何をのんびりとしたこと。大石さん、本当に私の話を信じてくれているんですよね？私の味方なんですよね？
Well, the funny part is that he actually had it ready to go, right? Like, it would have happened if that meeting hadn't happened. So he really was responding to the threat appropriately.
味方ですよね？答えてください。
もちろんですとも。ですが、警察組織ってやつは簡単じゃないんです。私も最大限努力をしてるんですよ。ただですね、やはり話の規模があまりに大きすぎるもので。
大石さん、私 奴らにどこかで毒を盛られました。富武さんにあの異常な死に方を強いた原始の力を持った寄生虫、あれをどこかで盛られたんです。昨日から痒くて仕方がない。もう私首をかきむしりすぎて血まみれなんです。いつ錯乱して喉をかき破ってしまうかもわからないというのに、おいさんは何をもたもたと。
Suppose I can see why she'd be pretty distressed about that. I knew it. Oishi didn't realize how dire the situation was. He understood there was some kind of conspiracy in Hinamizawa, but he didn't realize how soon their plan was going to be executed. Besides, I was already feeling itchy all over my body and was bound to soon die the same way as Tomatake-san.
申し訳ないです。これでも頑張っているんです。ただですね、みんな言うんですよ。その証拠はないのかと。
証拠があればすぐに動いてくれるんですか？
Yes. Mio-san's scrapbooks. Maybe that was what I'd need to convince the police. I was afraid someone would destroy the evidence if I handed them over to Oishi-san, so I kept them with me. But I didn't have much longer to live. I might not even make it until tomorrow morning. That's right, I might be dead before tomorrow. I would die tonight.
わかりました。ミオさんのスクラップ帳をお渡しします。それでどうか他の警察の人たちを一刻も早く説得してください。
助かります。そのスクラップ帳をぜひ。
I looked through my backpack, which was lying by my feet. Mio-san's scrapbooks were in there.
これは私たちの切り札です。大石さん、くれぐれも、いや、絶対によろしくお願いします。
わかりました。信頼してください。必ずや奴らの陰謀を暴いてみせます。
でも、まあ多分警察も組織だからそうなんだろうなとは思ってたんです。だからちょっと強引なやり方だけど、こんな形を取らせてもらったんです。
You know, I don't know that this is having the impact that you want. If I must say so myself. Look, there's a crazy conspiracy in Hinamizawa. You have to believe me. That's why I'm holding 25 children hostage. To show you that there are some crazy people in this town.
大石さんは私に要求されて仕方なくやっているという言い訳ができるはず。なんとかこのチャンスを有効に生かしてください。
ありがとうございます。必ずやあなたの期待に添えるよう努力します。ではどうしましょう。私が受け取りに参りましょうか。
I knew she wouldn't let me into the classroom. She was still cautious. I could guess where Rena Ryuga was going to take this thing, so I tried to stay ahead of her. I handed a memo with my instructions on it to a colleague.
さすがに私がこの場を離れるわけにはいかないので。
その方がいいかもしれません。やはりあなたが学校の外へ出れば、もしやということもあるかもしれませんので。
もしやって？
いえ、この騒ぎをもう園崎家も嗅ぎつけているでしょう。あなたがこういう手に打って出るとは思わなかったでしょうから、強引な手で口封じをしてくる可能性があります。
I worry that you've incited a massacre.
口封じ？それって。
狙撃です。園崎家のヒットマンは多分あなたがこれ以上騒ぎを大きくする前に。だからあなたは表に出ない方がいい。窓にも近づかないでください。さっきから何度か顔を出しているようですが、あれは危ない。
Like you're only going to feed into her paranoia, but I'm not sure I can get too much worse at this
そこを
point.
撃たれてしまいますよ。
ちょっと周りには警察がいるんでしょ？そんなの未然に防げないんですか？
防げるなら防ぎます。ですがね、周りの視界が良すぎます。訓練を受けたものなら400メートルくらいはやすやすと狙撃するそうです。ましてやあなたもご存知の通り、園崎家の特攻隊は軍事訓練を受け、中でも暗殺技術に関しては特に習得しています。
You might be doing something here.
奴らは侮らないでください。園崎家の陰謀を暴くにはあなたの力がまだまだ必要なんです。
わかりました。忠告をありがとうございます。どうせ明日まで持たない命でも今終わらせるわけにはいきませんので。
そうですともそうですとも。
So this is not her ultimate plan for
くれ
sure.
ぐれも窓から顔を覗かせないでくださいよ。
He's definitely getting people like lined up
用
outside.
心してください。
The phone conversation ended. Rena Ryuga was going to let Keiichi Maibara deliver the scrapbooks.
さっき書いたやつ用意できてますね。
OK です。うまく渡せますかね。
狙撃されるかもしれないと脅して外を覗かせないようにしたつもりです。でもまあ見てるでしょうね。そこはうまくやります。
I roughly understood what was going on from the phone conversation.
じゃあケイチ君、これとても大切なスクラップ帳。園崎家の陰謀と奴らの侵略の証拠を暴く証拠。大石さんに渡してきてね。渡したらすぐに戻ってくるんだよ。見てるからね。変なことをしたら怒るからね。
Yeah, let's not make Rena angry right now. Rena took out a couple of old scrapbooks from her backpack and gave them to me. And she cast a sidelong glance at Mion.
みーちゃんにも後で話すよ。みーちゃんの家がどれほど恐ろしい陰謀を企んでいるかをね。ひょっとするともう知ってるのかもしれないけどね。
It might be best if Mion just doesn't respond to that.
じゃあケイチ君、校庭の真ん中まででいいよ。余計な立ち話とかしちゃダメ。ケイチ君は持っていくだけだから。おしゃべり禁止だからね。おしゃべりしたら千恵先生なら T 定規で叩くけど、私ならなんで叩いちゃおうかな。
Oh, I don't know.
わかってるよ。無言で持っていくから、そのナタを下ろせ。俺はレナの仲間だろ。仲間だったら信用しろ。な。
そうだね。仲間だから信用するよ。
It doesn't really sound like it.
だから裏切らないでね。
Rena's eyes were telling me clearly. They were telling me she didn't trust me. But even in this state, she also knew she couldn't distrust her friends. Therefore, although she couldn't trust me, she was pretending to. That was why she didn't tie me up.
じゃあ、行ってくる。すぐ戻るよ。
よろしくね。
I walked past my friends who were lying down on the floor and headed to the exit. I saw some of their faces as I passed. Some were fearful, some were sure that I'd use the opportunity to run, and some were scared that they'd die if I did. Don't worry, guys. I won't let her even touch any of you. If Rena tries to do something, I'll stop her even if I have to risk my own life. Anyway, I do whatever it took to ensure that nobody died. I had to make sure Rena didn't get angry. I'd just wait for the right moment. I went down to the school entrance and changed my shoes, then unlocked the door and stepped aside. I felt the fresh air on my skin. I saw the lights from the police cars. I could feel all the policemen looking at me. As soon as I was in the schoolyard, a little voice tried to tempt me. I was free from Rena now. If I ran off the school grounds, I'd be free. What was I thinking? If I did something like that, Rena would go crazy and who knows what else she'd do. The important thing here wasn't my safety. It was to make sure that Rena didn't kill anyone. I saw a big man coming towards me from the school gate. That was probably Oishi-san.
前原圭一さんですね。
Correct and correct.
どうもどうも。沖宮市の大石です。クラちゃんと呼んでくださっても。
すみません。レナから何も喋らずにこれを渡せって言われてます。だから無言でこれを受け取ってください。
わかりました。それが問題のスクラップ帳ですね。お預かりします。
I tried to hand the scrapbooks to Oishi-san, but he stepped aside a little. Eh? Confused as to what he was doing, I changed my position and handed them to him again. He took them that time. And at that point, Oishi put something that was under his jacket into my pocket.
大丈夫です。
Bro just hand you a gun?
校舎はあなたの背中ですから。竜宮さんが窓から見てたとしても。
何なんですか
What is
これは。
this? I couldn't look into my pocket because I didn't want Rena to suspect anything, but whatever it was was pretty heavy for its size. Oh, it's a
あなた
gun.
メモもあります。教室へ戻る途中で竜宮さんに見つからないようにこっそり読んでください。では、これ以上は不信がられます。
I just followed his directions. I was worried Rena had begun to suspect something. When I looked at the classroom, the curtains were closed, but that didn't mean she wasn't peeking out through a crack. I went back to the entrance and locked the door. If Rena checked and found the door unlocked, it could cause more trouble. Rena was in the classroom. There was no way she'd come down this way. She was alone. If she left the classroom, everyone would get up and run. They couldn't run because Rena was there, but they were all waiting for their chance. The entrance, then, was Rena's blind spot. As I changed my shoes, I quickly removed what Oishi-san had put into my pocket. There was a radio with an earpiece? And something else that looked like a short police baton. There was also a folded piece of paper. I opened the piece of paper and saw a note written in small print. Dear my Barakun, please hide the bug in your pocket. It picks up even a low voice so you can use it to get in touch with me. By using the earphone, you can hear me in return. There's also a spray for self-protection. It sprays as far as 1 meter. Make sure you aim for the face. This must be the spray. I guess it's safe to try it here. I held down the button and gas sprayed out from the nozzle. Compared to Rena's hatchet, this required some caution, but it was small enough to fit inside of my hand. It was reassuring that I could hide it so easily. In other words, it was not possible for me to stop Rena. As I realized all my classmates' fates rested on my shoulders, I felt sweat form on my face. The memo continued. The spray is just for self-defensive purposes. Pepper spray only impairs eyesight, and while it makes your enemy powerless due to extreme pain and coughing for at least 30 minutes, it's not powerful enough to render them unconscious. Therefore, please don't forget there is a possibility that your enemy may fight back desperately in panic. This spray is your last resort. Please don't depend on it, but if you need to, make sure to use it. Oishi. Was he telling me to use it or not? It was probably one of those grown-up issues. If the cops entrusted me solely with the fate of the hostages and I failed, they'd be held liable. So while he gave me a weapon, he made me consider its use. I hid the bug and the spray in my pockets and went back to the classroom. I felt a little dizzy, maybe because I was nervous. I was simply following Rena's orders because I had no other choice. That was why I wasn't scared. But things were different from before. I had a weapon. I was in a far better position, but my heart was pounding. Humans are so strange. Shit! What am I going to do? What should I do, Keiichi Maibara? Did I want to fight with Rena? The memo said the spray only reaches as far as 1 meter. 1 meter? That was basically a hand-to-hand battle. That meant I only had one opportunity. I didn't have a second chance. The memo also said I need to aim for her face. That wasn't going to be easy. Shit! Besides, Rena was cautious. How can I stand directly in front of her within 1 meter? But that's what I'd have to do if I was to have any chance of winning. Rena would do anything to reach her goal. She wouldn't even hesitate to kill. Just like how I didn't. Of course, things were already extremely serious. An apology definitely wouldn't be enough. But at least there hadn't been any casualties. The more time passed, the more irritated Rena would get. She might demand something again, and she might kill someone that time to show how serious she was. Bad things had already taken place, but a tragedy hadn't occurred yet. But it was almost here. It wasn't very far at all. When I closed my eyes, I could easily picture Rena killing one classmate after another. So get in there! I know you're contemplating things right now, but the longer you stay out here, the less happy Rena will be. After I killed Rena and Mion, my room was covered in blood. If she killed 20 people, the classroom would be a pool of it. If that happened, Rena would... She still wouldn't realize she was being delusional. She would rip out her own throat and die. That would be too big a cross for her to carry, and one day she would remember and be saddened. She didn't need to go through that. I didn't want Rena to go through what I had to go through. Shit, I felt dizzy. This is a very long hallway. I didn't know the classroom was so far. With each step I took, my determination to fight Rena became stronger. Rena would be shocked to realize I betrayed her. But if she couldn't wake up from the nightmare on her own, someone else would have to wake her up. And her friends needed to be the ones to do that.
おかえり、ケイチ君。大石さん、何か言ってた？
なんだ?
As soon as I stepped into the classroom, I smelled something. Everyone had moved to one corner of the classroom. The smell reminded me of a gas station. Was it gasoline? I saw a red gasoline container by Rena's feet. The cap was open. It was seemingly sturdy and made of metal. It said gasoline on the side, written in felt marker. She must have spread it across the entire classroom. The smell was almost giving me a headache. No, it wasn't just in the classroom. The classmates were soaked in gasoline too. How could she? I see. This was just like a hijacker holding a bomb. If the police were to rush in, she would burn the hostages. I don't know where she got it, but she had a lighter in her left hand.
Rena, これはどういう真似だよ?
もちろんやらないよ。万が一の時の保険なの。私だって大好きなみんなのバーベキューなんて見たくない。
Bro, I don't even know what to say. I know Keiichi killed 2 people, but this has gotta be worse than what Keiichi did, bro. Like, his was like in the moment, like not even, it wasn't premeditated, right? Like, a hostage situation is insane.
だから冗談で済んでほしいって思ってる。
A joke? No one's gonna take this as a joke. Rena showed off the lighter. Obviously, she was trying to threaten me. I've heard about people committing suicide by setting themselves on fire. They poured gasoline on themselves and lighted a blaze. You might think that if it was extinguished right away, it wouldn't be that bad. But human skin is supposedly very delicate, and they said that even if 30% of a person's skin gets burned, it's enough to be fatal. If it was your entire body, it would result in death for sure. I had been put in a disadvantageous position. My weapon might take Rena's sight, but it couldn't stop her from using the lighter. She'd probably use it the moment she's attacked. I don't know if she realized it, but the kind of lighter she had would keep burning until the lid was closed. Therefore, all she'd have to do was to light it and drop it onto the floor. In other words, my spray can wouldn't make Rena powerless at all. The last resort Oishi-san gave me had already lost all its power. He probably heard that,
保険
though,
なんて
right?
大丈夫だろう。大石さんはスクラップ帳があればきっと警察を納得させられる。そうなればあとは一斉捜査で奴らの陰謀が暴ける。そうなんだろう。
あのスクラップ帳だけで本当に動いてくれるかな。お役所ってのはお尻の重いところだそうだからね。
Rena was thinking that if she didn't see any progress with the scrapbook, she'd pressure the police by letting them know about the gasoline.
とりあえずは大石さんを信じよう。あとは家宝を待つだけだろう。
そうだね。じゃあさっきの話の続きをするかな。それでね、その寄生虫は長い時間を経るうちに、でもそれでは面白くない人たちがいた。それがひなみ沢御三家なの。だから彼らは。
Rena was simply telling everyone what she had heard from Takano-san. I started mumbling so I could let Oishi-san know what was going on.
すごい匂いだよな。ガソリンをポリタンク丸々ぶちまけるとすごいもんだ。
I was pretending to mumble to myself so I could only say it very quietly. I wished I could say it louder, but that was probably impossible. I wasn't sure if Oishi-san could hear me. I thought of an idea to find out whether or not they could hear me.
車のクラクション聞きたいな。
クマちゃん、クラクション一発
So that he knows he's being heard. Some guy honked once quickly.
ガソリンとは参ったっすね。これでさっきからなんとなく感じてた匂いの正体が分かりました。
I mean, we heard that earlier, and I knew that was going to come into play. I was like, they're not just going to be like, wow, it just smells like gasoline, and it just be a normal scenario. Especially in Higurashi and presumably the final sub-chapter.
多分この後の要求を押し通すための切り札にするつもりでしょうね。
クマちゃん、普通の若い子がポリタンクって言い方をしたら18リットル入りのあれですよね。
さあ、多分。
小宮山君、営林署の人まだ返してないですよね。ちょっと呼んでもらえます？なるほどね。携行缶にはちゃんとガソリンと明記してあると、灯油のポリタンクにも灯油とちゃんと書いてある？
はい。中身を間違えたら大変ですから、すべての燃料容器にはちゃんと明記してあります。
Not too many people know this, but regular portable tanks can't hold gasoline. Gasoline, while common, is extremely flammable, and it can be lit even with static electricity. Therefore, gasoline must be kept in special metal containers. Those are called carrying cans.
じゃあ前原さんがガソリンって言ったのは間違いなくガソリンなわけだ。携行缶は何リットルのサイズのがあったんですか
？18リットル用と5リットル用の2種類があったと記憶してます。
5リットル用って多分平たい形をしたやつですよね。
ええ、真っ赤で平たくてこう取っ手がついています。
前原圭一はポリタンクという言い方をしましたね。18リットルの方でしょうか。
あるいは見慣れない形だったんで、とりあえず適当な言葉が思いつかず、でもどのみち本当にガソリンだとしたらかなり危険なことになります。
Gasoline burns when lit. Yes, it does. Correct. But what's an even bigger threat than liquid gasoline are the fumes. When gasoline fumes are lit on fire, they explode. Also, gasoline evaporates easily. Even at freezing temperatures, it evaporates. And so, in other words, inside the closed classrooms, the fumes would kill the entire space. The classroom would fill the entire space. The classroom would then become a bomb itself.
クマちゃん、危険物第4類とかわかる？
Rena's put us in quite a situation, huh?
いえ、気化ガソリンが危険だってことは理解してるんですが、詳しいことまでは。
18リットルと5リットルで最悪の場合どの程度規模が違うか調べときたいな。
Bro's like, is this a regular TNT or are we dealing with like a bomb that's leveling the building?
そうだ、じじいに聞いてみよう。署に連絡して鑑識のじい様がいるか聞いてみて。
The voice change mid-sentence is always so funny.
おお、話は聞いちょるぞい。
This guy.
犯人に直接リーチ一発振り込みドカーンってところじゃの。
Bro, come on. Now is not the time.
裏まで乗っちゃって大変なことになってます。
Alright, I mean, this is clearly a mahjong joke that I don't
ドカン
get.
ってのは実に笑えないですな。ところですいません。危険物の第4種はお持ちで？
おつよんかここにいる人間全員足せば公主じゃぞい。どうした？ガソリンでも巻いて籠城しとるんか？
Good guess.
まさにそのようです。人質の一人に盗聴器を持たせてるんですが、どうも犯人は教室内にガソリンを撒いたようなんです。ただ、撒いた量が18リットル缶か5リットル缶かはわかりません。両方のケースのですね、最悪の場合について教えてもらえませんかね。
教室の広さは
だいたい50平米ですね。
Dude. I feel like I'm not saying anything, but this situation is just like, what the hell, man? I'm just letting it play out. It's so tense.
室内は密閉か？
おそらくさぞやガソリン臭いだろうと思います。
Yeah, no kidding.
多いし、
やっぱり
教室は粉々に吹っ飛ぶぞい。教室内はまず全員。
そりゃ18リットルの場合です。
So in the case of either, probably.
5リットルの場合じゃ。わしの記憶がボケてないなら、1.8メートルの室内を吹き飛ばすのに4リットルもあれば十分だったはずじゃ。
The policeman listening to their conversation on the side went pale. 8 by 8 meters meant a room that was 64 square meters. Only 4 liters are needed to blow that up, and at least 5 liters were scattered in a 50 square meter room. Yeah, that's...
つまりお釣りが来るってことですね。
Yeah.
嫌なリーチだな。じゃあ聞きたくはないんですが、18リットルだったら。
Do you need to ask?
そうだのう。大石風に例えると、親のリーチ一発ピンフ単葉赤赤ドラドラに振り込む感じかの
あ、どういう意味っすか？
親の倍満24000点、配給減点が25000点だから1000点本は1本残るってことですかね。
そんなところだのう。柱1本くらいは残るかもしれんぞい。
Fantastic.
そりゃあ振り込みたくないリーチだな。ね。
Laugh through the pain, Oishi.
今のうちに消防署に連絡して、事件解決後の処理は消防の指示を仰ぐ必要があるぞい。
That's assuming we can get them out of there alive.
参ったな。こいつは盗聴情報なんで消防車を呼び寄せたらバレちまうな。なんとか学校から見えないところに待機させましょう。
それがいいの。あとそれから多いし。
ねえ、さっき人質の一人と接触できましてね。その際にこっそりと盗聴器を持たせました。ガソリン散布はそれで分かったんですよ。
まずいの。化学火災の事例で発火原因に電子機器のランプの点灯があったはずだぞい。
Oh my god.
ガソリンの発火点は300度程度。火花はおろか、静電気でも着火して爆発する。
冗談じゃない。なんだってそんな危険な液体がこうも簡単に世の中にあるんですかね。
Kind of a valid question at times.
消防法と自動車社会を作った連中に
言え。True.
6月だからの。そう空気も乾燥しとらんとは思うが、とにかく万が一に備えて盗聴器の電源を切らせた方がいいだろうの。
Did he even put it in?
おいさん、盗聴器で聞く限り犯人はライターを所持している模様です。
ってことは、つまり前原さんがスプレーを使って静止しようとしても着火までは防げない可能性が大ってわけだ。
I mean, literally, what is the plan in this situation?
しかも盗聴器まで使えなくなるとは、なんてこった。
おいし、ライターはまずいぞ。冗談でもいじらせてはならん。犯人もガソリンの危険性を認知しとらん可能性がある。
Look, if we could get her to not play with the lighter, do you think we'd be in the situation we were in, bro?
両を聞く限り、とても知識があるとは思えんぞ。
Oishi's back was covered with a cold sweat. He never even thought this would turn into such a serious matter. He didn't know how dangerous gasoline was. He didn't know because he'd never heard of cars exploding in car accidents. He knew it was dangerous, but he didn't know what it was capable of. Gasoline is more dangerous once it evaporates. Therefore, a burning car in an accident and gasoline fumes being ignited are at completely different levels. It's quite simple to understand if you think about how car engines work. Cars vaporize gasoline in the carburetor and let it explode in the engine cylinders. In other words, that little explosion in the engine is what gives the cars the power to move. Therefore, if you want more power, an engine needs to be bigger to create a bigger explosion. So if an engine cylinder was the size of a classroom, how much power would it create? Anyone with knowledge of engines would know, but a lot of people don't consider how dangerous evaporated gasoline is, because it's too familiar. 25 hostages and one hostage taker. All 26 people were basically stuck in a huge bomb. Furthermore, the suspect might accidentally set it off. If she were to pretend to light the lighter as a threat, that would be the end. All of the people around Oishi had gone pale. The classroom might explode at any moment. How could they save all the hostages, especially when the criminal was living in her own delusion and her requests were something so unreal?
失礼します。先ほど受け取ったスクラップ帳の中に犯人からと思われる文書が見つかりました。
One of the policemen brought over a folded piece of paper. Oishi opened it while the others watched. He saw girlish handwriting on the paper. You could tell this was written before she invaded the school. Dear Oishi-sama, if you are reading this letter, that means I'm at the final stage. I must have seized the school and held the students as hostages. I am planning to appoint you as a negotiator, so please pretend to be threatened by me and become my contact with the outside. The first thing I want to tell you is that my enemy is the Sonozaki family and also the aliens who are pretending to be parasites that control the Sonozaki family.
宇宙人?
I didn't think you'd believe me if I brought up the aliens, so I didn't tell you about them until now. But when you read these scrapbooks, you will understand. The aliens came to Earth in UFOs in ancient times. They landed in Onigafuchi's swamp. They used this village as their breeding grounds, and through that selective breeding they widened their domain. They were successful, and now they're trying to invade the Earth.
なんだこりゃ。
All the other policemen frowned at the letter.
いやいや、驚きませんよ。
No, it's really not.
高野の他のスクラップ帳も読みましたが、個人的にはオッシーが面白かったな。
Yeah, that one was nice. The Sonozaki family, as well as all the village authorities, have been brainwashed by the aliens. The villagers' attempts to revive the cult of Oyashiro-sama were actually part of the alien strategy to invade the Earth. The aliens are very clever. They don't let people realize they're being controlled. The Irie Clinic must be their secret research center. Please conduct an investigation and expose their secret. Also, please check out the bottom of the swamp. The UFO must still be there. Also, capture all the relatives of the three families and take x-rays of their brains. You'll find hideous parasites inside of them. But please be careful. The aliens eliminate whoever finds out about them by replacing their host with a look-alike. That's how they've been controlling the village. Therefore, there may already be some aliens among the villagers. It is possible that they will try to interfere with your investigation. As a matter of fact, there have been lookalikes of Mio Takano, Rika Furude, and me, Rena Ryugu. If you see any of those three, capture them immediately. That'll be the proof of aliens existing among us. Bro might realize that his offhand comment there, really, set her off.
どうしてでしょうね。
ああ、あれだ。俺さ、彼女との電話で岐阜県警さんの検視で一日ズレがあったかもしれないですよって言っちゃったことがあったんですよ。
ああ、検視結果のミスの話ですか。
それで私、祭りの日には死んでたはずなのにどうしていたのかななんてことを言っちゃったんです。それをこういう風に解釈するとはな。
I mean, yeah, who would expect that?
ふざけ半分で脅しすぎたかな。
自分の名前が含まれてるのも奇妙ですね。鏡に映ったのでも見間違えたとか。
One of the policemen spoke up. He was one of the pair who searched the garbage dump that night.
これは俺、わかるわ。ほら、竜宮レナを探し回った晩、ゴグナで目撃されたって話があったでしょ。
They weren't Sonozakis. That makes more sense, that they were the police.
あれだよ。あれは多分、村人の誰かが流したデマなんだよ。で、それを本人がどこかで聞いて、自分がもう一人いるように錯覚した。
Now, Rika, they have no way to know that one.
くそったり、ノストラダムスだっけ？あれの大予言と同じですね。何が起こっても予言に含まれるように解釈しちまう。
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like.
今の竜宮レナは箸が転んだって宇宙人の仕業だって言い出すぞ。
She probably would.
あるいはいずれ捕まることを予見して精神鑑定で有利になる資料を先に用意したとか。
Nah, bro, she legit believes in it.
そんなことあの子は考えてないよ。あの子は本気で信じてる。いや、本気の本気で。コロッと生かされた私だからわかるんです。 彼女は本気で信じてるんだ。このインチキスクラップ帳を。
Very true.
あ、まだ1枚あるっすよ。何々
P.S. I was poisoned yesterday with the same stuff that killed Tomatake-san. I've been scratching my throat since then. I'll probably have clawed my throat open by tomorrow. If you can find the antidote when you investigate the Irie clinic, please bring it to me.
これは
ですね。本気で宇宙人の話を真に受けてるなら、
That might be
解
your,
毒剤だと言えば
I feel like
うまく騙せるかも。
that's gotta be your best bet. But you may not find the antidote, or maybe it'll be too late by the time you do. Therefore, considering the time I have left, I will set 7 p.m. tonight as the deadline. If an investigation doesn't take place and the antidote doesn't arrive by 7 p.m., I will choose to die with all the hostages by lighting the gasoline instead. What time is it?
19時？今何時だ
18時前です。
Days are long nowadays. It doesn't get dark even in the evenings. It'll probably start to get dark around 7 p.m.
あと1時間か。いや、1時間を待たずに火遊びで大爆発するかも。くそ、どうすりゃいい。
何が地球侵略と戦うだ。
A little ridiculous.
それに人質を巻き込むなんてめちゃくちゃだ。
めちゃくちゃなんです。
Correct.
今の彼女にはまともな交渉なんか通用しない。しかも本人は冷静だと思ってる分だけ立ちが悪い。
おいさん、それより次の文章。
何？
Are they bugged? I'm planning to spread gasoline throughout the classroom. I'm sure you realize how dangerous that is. If anyone suggests storming into the room, please tell them exactly how bad an idea that would be. Also, the hostages are anchored down with U-shaped bike locks. Even if those alien policemen rushed in and killed me, they'd have to cut each lock. But if you tried cutting them, you might create sparks. Therefore, you need to completely ventilate the room first. In other words, it will take an extremely long time to rescue all the hostages from the classroom. Actually, I have a different explosive system set up, other than the gasoline I spread. It's a very simple time bomb using a gasoline and a kitchen timer. The kitchen timer provides electricity at a set time. I ripped the tip of its plug so it will create enough sparks to ignite the gasoline. I've already set the timer to 7 p.m. Jesus Christ! Rena thought about this way too in depth. She's way too smart to have as a villain, bro. Way too smart to have as a villain. Even if I'm not around, there will be an explosion at that time. If the classroom isn't ventilated by that time, it'll explode too. I'm sorry to ask you like this, Oishi-san, but please help me so we can avoid a tragedy. Please let the three families know that Mion Sonozaki, the successor to the head of the Sonozaki family, and Rika Furude, a mascot for the cult of Yashiro-sama, are in this classroom. If anyone from the three families helps you, I'm sure their conspiracy will be exposed by tonight. The alien invasion is going to happen very soon. Please get going quickly. To my ally, Oishi-san. I was kind of worried that she, planted a bug in the scrapbook. That would be crazy. Whenever you go. Smash! Oishi threw the scrapbooks to the ground.
くそったり！何が味方だ！
キッチンタイマーって目覚まし時計みたいなもんですか？
ああ、昔の炊飯器とかにはタイマーがついてないものも多かったんですよ。それでね、コンセント穴のついたキッチンタイマーって名前の目覚まし時計がありましてね。そのコンセントに炊飯器を挿しておけば、仕掛けた時刻に自動的に電源が供給されて、指定時刻に炊飯器が電源オンにできるって代物です。
Literally, how the hell are we gonna get out of this situation, man?
へえ、そりゃ便利そうですね。
確かにそれを流用すれば、次元発火装置なんて簡単にでっち上げられる。
And that's what Rena's done.
キッチンタイマーってあたりが女の子っぽくてなんだか複雑だな。
I suppose so.
電力会社に頼んで電力を落とすとかはどうすかね。コード式なら電力がなければ無力化できます。ああ、でもダメか。教室が真っ暗になるのと同時にライターをつけるに決まってますよね。
Probably.
やっぱり解毒剤の線をついて指向性の睡眠薬でも与えますか。指向性ですよ。多分自身に使う前に人質に試すはずです。注意してください。
了解です。手配します。
あと前原さんともう一度話したいな。
Good luck with that.
竜宮レナが間違ってライターをいじらないようにうまくなだめてもらわないと。あと盗聴器もオフにさせないといけません。盗聴器はどう？面白いことは拾いましたか？
犯人が人質に 危害を加えている模様です。
Fantastic.
なんてこった。
That's great.
どうも、園崎ミオンに対してのようで
That's
す。
exactly who I figured it would be.
やめろレナ。
Jesus, man. Rena kept hitting Mion, who had her hands tied behind her back. Rena wasn't using her fists, but instead the handle of her hatchet. Jesus!
ケイチ君はそこの壁から動かない約束だよ。動いたらレナも怒るんだからね。
Rena's gaze intimidated me. Her eyes were full of madness. I could feel Rena's emotions boiling over on the inside. If I opposed her, she could easily cut Mion's arm off.
とにかく私が許せなかったことは、みーちゃんが死体を掘り出して警察に売ったことだよ。信じてたのに。信じてたのに。
Rena hit Mion's face over and over. It wasn't just Mion's hands that were tied behind her. Her neck was also tied to a window frame with a bike lock, so there was no way that Mion could protect her face. Bro, poor Mion. Jesus Christ, man. I didn't know if her forehead was cut or if her nose was bleeding, but her face was covered in blood. Her blood got on the handle of the hatchet, and every time she got hit with it, more blood was smeared on her face. The handle of the hatchet could easily smash her forehead. Because of her position in the Sonozaki family, Mion couldn't say that she hid the bodies, so all she could do was endure. However, Rena continued to attack her. Rena no longer had any restraint. She might even continue until Mion's front teeth were broken.
やめるんだレナ。ミオン、もういいだろう。俺が話す。本当のことを話すから。レナ、ミオンを殴るのをやめるんだ。
本当のことって、ケイチ君。
Didn't you already try to tell me this?
だよケイちゃん。
クラスのみんな、今から言う話は頼む。少し物騒な話をするかもしれないが、悪いことの話じゃないんだ。だから聞かないでくれ。耳に入っても忘れてくれ。頼む。
どういう話だろう。聞かせてくれるかな。
難しい話じゃないんだ。あれはお前のためだったんだよ。あの埋めた場所が今年の夏に営林署が伐採で立ち入ることになってたのを後日に知ったんだ。だからあのままじゃまずいと思ってミオンがもっと別の安全な場所に隠してくれたんだよ。
We literally tried to tell her this already and she didn't believe it.
その話はあの晩に聞いてるよ。そしてそんなのはみーちゃんの作った嘘だとも言わなかったっけ。
She gonna lie and say he was there or something?
なんで嘘なんかつかなきゃならないんだ。仲間を助けるのは当然じゃないか。だからミオンがお前を助けるためにやってくれたんだよ。
It looks like Keiichi's fed up with waiting. He's resisting in his own way.
嘘だよ。嘘だよ。信じないよ。ならなんでそんなことを私に相談せずにこっそりとやったの？
Why did Mion even have to tell her? Mion was trying to be delicate. Mion did her best trying to hide what Rena did. Mion knew Rena was at her wit's end, and that was why she did it in secret. But Rena didn't want to believe her.
違うよ、ケイチ君。ケイチ君まで騙すなんて。本当にみーちゃんは卑劣だね。
Bro.
部活で騙すのは許せるけど、仲間であるケイチ君を騙すなんて許せない。許せない。許せない。許せない。
やめろ！ミオンを殴るな！ミオンは悪くない！
I never knew having your hands tied behind your back was that scary. Mion got hit repeatedly with the handle of the hatchet. She could only endure. She couldn't even protect herself with her hands.
ねえ、そうなのみーちゃん。そうならなんでそうだって私に話してくれなかったの？
ミオンに話せない理由は想像つくだろう。園崎家のいろいろ都合があるんだよ。それより気を使ってくれたことをお前が感謝すべきじゃないか。
I may have said it too aggressively. Rena turned around and glared at me.
そうだよ、ケイチ君。園崎家の都合でみーちゃんは私を警察に売った。仲間の私を売った。仲間なのに、友達なのに、仲良しだったのに。ひどいよ、みーちゃん。本当に大好きな一番のお友達だったのに、どうして？ひどいよ。ひどいよ。
Bro. So, Bro, Mion is just getting abused right now. They were not kidding. Oh no. This was senseless. Rena cried as if being bullied, but she was the one doing the bullying. Normally this would be so odd as to be impossible, but I had seen this scene before. I liked you. I trusted you. As I cried, I beat her to death. Rena repeatedly begged me to trust her, yet I beat her. I know what it's like to be the one doing the beating. Stop, 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 stop! Stop, Rena! Don't you realize what you're doing? You're hurting your friend with your own hands. I understand what you're feeling. I know you're sad because your friend betrayed you, right? But it's a misunderstanding. We didn't betray you. We've been thinking about you all this time. But she just couldn't see that. Even if she died, Rena probably wouldn't realize she'd made a terrible mistake. But someday you'll realize. Even an insensitive guy like me realized, so Rena would realize it for sure. And that's when you'll feel even sadder, Rena. You will remember this bloody Mion one day, and you'll realize that you were the one who made her bloody, and you will regret that you did. But I was the only one who could understand that, because I remembered. There was no way for Rena to understand or realize that. I wondered if I was suffering the most of all. There was no way to avoid a tragedy. This was exactly the same tragedy with different actors. Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's what I've been saying for a while. You know, is that it's the same. It's for a while now. It's just been chapter 1, just with 2 people flipped. Also, you're not the one suffering the most. It's Rika. The main character was Rena instead of me, but it was the same thing. Where was I? I was in the audience now. I knew how this story ended, but I couldn't come onto the stage.
やめろ。やめてくれ。やめてくれ。
泣いてるの？どうしたの、ケイチ君?
I stood up slowly and walked towards Rena, just like what Rena did for me before, with my arms open.
頼むからやめてくれ。やめるんだ、レナ。今はどうしてかわからないかもしれない。なぜやめなければならないのか。でも、やめないと、絶対に後悔する日が来るから。
He's making his move.
だから、やめるんだ。
I feel like this isn't gonna end how he wants.
ケイチ君、壁に戻らないと。レナは怒るよ。
I feel like he's given up caring. Rena's eyes went cold and she lifted the hatchet in her right hand.
やめな、ケイちゃん。私は大丈夫だから。
No, I don't think he's gonna stop. Mion told me, but with such a bloody face, how could she be?
レナはその名で俺を叩くのか。
それ以上近づけばね。叩くよ。遠慮なくね。もうケイチ君なんかいなくても最後までいけるんだよ。でも私はケイチ君と最後まで一緒にいたい。だから私を怒らせないで。ね。
She sounded gentle, but her expression was telling me there really would be no hesitation. Rena would crack my head open with the hatchet immediately. But who cares?
レナはもし立場が逆だったら命を惜しむと思うか。
当然だよ。
And that's how you know she's too far gone.
相手が凶器を持ってたら怖いから逆らわないね。
'Cause that's not how it went at all.
嘘だな。
I know you're strong enough to give up your own life for the sake of your friend. It's my turn now. My turn to be strong.
俺もレナと同じだぜ。仲間のためなら命なんて惜しくない。レナが欲しいってなら俺の命だってくれてやる。だからやめるんだ。仲間を信じてるなら仲間を傷つけるのをやめるんだ。その痛みは必ずレナを襲うから。だからやめるんだ。誰もレナを脅かしたりなんかしてない。みんながレナのためを思ってる。それを疑うな。頼むから信じてくれ。俺を信じろ。俺の頭を砕けば信じられるってんならそのナタを撃ち下ろせばいい。俺は防がねえからな。
Yeah, he's making his play.
近寄るな。それ以上近づけばライターを点火するよ。
Rena lifted the lighter overhead.
バカ野郎！てめえ、いつまで夢を見てんだ。自分でも分かってんだろ。悪い夢だって。誰かに覚ましてほしいって。だから俺が来た。俺が覚ましに来たんだ。
冷ますのは圭一君の方だよ。この村が奴らに侵略されていることがまだ信じられないの？あの時はちゃんと信じてくれたのに、また疑うの？また私を信じないの？
No. Rena opened the lid of the lighter. I could tell her thumb was about to light it. Rena was prepared to die along with everyone else. Rena would die without knowing the truth. She would die believing it was the world that was crazy. She would die cursing everything in this world. That was the storyline of this tragedy, wasn't it? This was a theater from hell. What an interesting script. Who wrote it? A devil? Shit! I won't let this happen. Don't underestimate Keiichi Maibara, the original main character. Don't think the same storyline will work again. I'll be taking over the script this time, and I'm gonna destroy it. I won't let this bad ending take place. I'm gonna destroy their expectations.
信じてねえのはレナの方だろうが。今は俺を信じろ。黙って俺を信じやがれ。それは絶対にレナのためになる。前回の惨劇の主人公がそうだと言ってるんだよ。先代主人公の言うことをおとなしく聞きやがれ。
Bro's getting forceful. Maybe that'll work. I don't know.
何を言ってるのかさっぱりだよ、圭一君。黙って俺を信じろ。信じてないのは圭一君の方だよ。どうして私を信じてくれないの？
やかましい。俺はお前が間違ってることを知ってるんだよ。
How crazying her might work, to be honest.
お前の末路を知っていて、お前がする未来の後悔を全部知ってるんだよ。仲間を自らの手で殺し、それがどれほど罪深いことかに気づきもせずに生を終える。それがどんなに悲しいことか。
This song is so
お前に
good.
はわからないんだよ。
I love this song for scenes like this, man.
全然何を言ってるのかわからない。
No one besides Rika does.
大丈夫なの、圭一君？
That is a rich question.
ああ、そうだな。何を言ってるかレナにはわからないだろうな。でも話してやる。ある大バカ野郎の話を聞かせてやる。あるところに前原圭一っていう大バカがいたんだ。そいつはみんなと楽しく過ごす気に何の不満もなかったのに、ある日を境にほんの少し仲間を疑っちまうんだ。そして何もかもが疑わしく感じるようになってきて。
Bro, I want to believe this is gonna work, man. He didn't notice how worried his friends were, and he hurt them repeatedly. How sorrowful. They trusted each other, but they couldn't let each other know. Can you believe something as stupid as that actually happened?
そして俺はお前とミオンを、なのにお前は最後の瞬間まで私を信じてって言って俺に殴り殺される最後の瞬間まで頭をかばわなかった。かばおうとしなかった。最後まで俺を信じて両手を差し出したままだったんだ。
She's not gonna believe this.
それがどれだけすげえことか俺は気づきもせずお前を殴り殺してしまったんだよ。
I want her to believe this and to be snapped out of it. Not that that would prevent her from going to jail or anything, but it would save 25 children's lives, I suppose.
それがどれだけ罪深いことかお前には想像なんかつかないだろうな。だから俺は俺の罪を滅ぼすためにレナを止めるんだ。
This is his atonement for chapter 1. That's crazy.
それ以上近寄ると本当にライターを。
レナが命を懸けて俺を救おうとしてくれたように、今度は俺がレナを救う。俺はレナがどんなに立派な最後を遂げたか今でも覚えてるぜ。あの瞳には自分が殺されるかもしれないなんて怯えはわずかもなかった。
These words will reach him, she thought. These next words will make Keiichi-kun realize.
俺を信じろ、レナ！
That was when Rena hit my head with the hatchet. I crumbled down to the floor. She hit me with the handle, but my head was probably cut open. I felt the blood on my face. Bro needed to
か
felt the
わい
pepper
そうな
spray.
圭一君。それは圭一君の意志じゃない。圭一君の頭に寄生している奴らがコントロールしているだけなの。
Yeah, there was never a chance.
今に大石さんが治療する薬を見つけてきてくれるよ。そうなったら一番最初に飲ませて治療してあげるからね。そうしたらもう圭一君は奴らの支配から逃れられる。 レナの大好きだったケイチくんに戻れるんだよ。だからもう少し待っててね。
このバカ野郎が！
I heard a phone ringing in the teacher's office. Rena listened to the phone ring for a while, then realized it was for her. Rena tried to answer the phone in the classroom, but she couldn't figure out how to transfer the call, so she decided to answer it in the teacher's office instead.
ちょっと職員室に行ってくるね。その間に誰も逃げちゃ嫌だよ。誰か一人でもいなくなってたらみーちゃんが大変なことになっちゃうんだからね。
Bro, she's already not making it out of this. Maybe the police are like baiting her. That would be the best move. Rena glared at everyone in the classroom, intimidating them, and then left. That was when I heard a honk from the outside. I remembered the signal from earlier. Did I wish someone to get in touch with me? I bent down and put the receiver earphone in my ear.
聞こえますか？沖宮署の熊谷と申します。聞こえているなら咳払いをしてください。よかった。今から言うことをよく聞いてください。犯人が撒いたガソリンは極めて危険なものです。今教室内には気化したガソリンが充満して巨大な爆弾と同じことになっています。ですから竜宮さんを刺激しないようにし、間違ってもライターをいじらせないでください。さっきのような挑発行為は二度と慎むようお願いします。
盗聴器って嫌なもんだぜ。
気化ガソリンはわずかの火花でも着火する可能性があります。
Hey, good luck, bro. There's no way Keiichi's not gonna provoke her again.
ですので、この連絡を最後に盗聴器の電源を切ってください。これは万が一に備えてのことです。それから最後に犯人は時限発火装置を仕掛けていると予告しています。
次元？なんだって？
キッチンタイマーを流用した時限発火装置で火花を起こすだけの単純なものですが、現在竜宮レナの要求する解毒剤と偽れる睡眠薬を準備中です。ですが残された時間が長くありません。予告ではタイマーの設定は午後7時。
I looked at the wall clock. It was 6:45 p.m. There were only 15 minutes left. I could hear Rena screaming into the phone.
いいえ、時間通りです。急いでくださいね、大石さん。1秒たりとも遅れることは許しません。
聞こえてると思いますが、竜宮レナはタイマーの設定延長には応じないようです。あと15分で本気で心中するつもりです。
I remembered thinking the same way as Rena. After I killed Rena and Mion, I knew the police would come. I thought someone would solve the mystery after I was dead. If that's what Rena was thinking, then she'd been planning to kill herself from the beginning.
それで俺にどうしろと？
睡眠薬がもうじき届きます。だが交渉中に爆発したら元も子もありません。あなたに時限発火装置を見つけ出して解除していただきたいのです。
よく映画で見るような赤と青のコードを切断するやつですか？
I don't really think that's how it would go, but...
もっと簡単なものでしょう。犯人の予告によるならば、それは台所用のキッチンタイマーです。電池でなくコンセントに挿して動くタイプの目覚まし時計状のものと思われます。教室内のコンセントに何か刺さっていませんか？
There was one outlet in the back and another at the front of the classroom. I checked, but I didn't see anything that was plugged in.
いや、教室内のコンセントには。
よその場所で発火しても確実性は低いでしょう。
Might be a
間違いなく
bluff.
教室内にあるはずです。
I mean, yeah, maybe.
いや、多分ないぜ。廊下からコードが引かれてるのはレナが話してる電話だけだ。そのキッチンタイマーが電池式ってことはないのか？
電源を供給するタイプですので、あるいは他の部屋ということはありませんか？その教室以外にもガソリンの充満した部屋があるとしたら、そちらの部屋に仕掛けられている可能性があります。
Outside?
学校中を調べろってことかよ。
Didn't they say that the smell was coming from outside?
あと15分でか？くそ、俺は負傷中なんだぜ。
But if I stayed here, I'd die in 15 minutes. This wasn't a time to be pessimistic. This was probably my last chance to stop this tragedy from taking place. She spread the gasoline while I went out to deliver the scrapbook, so she must have done it in a fairly short time. I really didn't think she had enough to spread it anywhere else other than the classroom. Then where was the time bomb?
こちらも努力しています。ですから、そちらでもご協力をお願いします。以上です。質問がなければこれで更新を終了しますが、何かありますか？
特にない。あ、いや、一つある。
何でしょう？
大石の親父に言っといてくれ。よくも人の古傷をレナに話しやがったなって。もし俺が生きてここを出られたらぶん殴ってやるから覚悟しやがれって伝えといてくれ。
Valid.
ああ、2発殴るぜ。俺のことをレナに喋った分と。
了解。
Bro said, I'm gonna punch him for something he did in another timeline.
大石さんも竜宮レナに踊らされたとだいぶへこんでます。きっと殴らせてくれますよ。以上でよろしいですか？
ああ、このおしゃべりだけで数分食っちまった。切るぜ。
ご無事を。
Click. Rena was still on the phone. Oishi-san was definitely trying to stall her. From what I could hear, it sounded like he's telling her that they investigated the main Sonozaki residence and found something awful in their secret basement or something like that. Hey, if you went too far, Rena would believe everything again. Mion was going to get hit again for lying.
Keiichi?
Yeah, you need to ask, like, Rika or Satoko, like, where she dumped the gasoline. Rika-chan and Satoko crawled up to me.
今の俺の無線、聞いてたか？
トラップは私の先輩特許でしたよ。
That's true.
レナさんにお株を奪われるなんて、こんなの死んでも死にきれませんわ。
We need Satoko right now. Satoko realized how serious the situation was as well. The lives of the hostages, including her own, were about to be taken. Yet she tried to remain strong.
サトコ、もし死んでもレナを恨まないでくれ。レナは病気なんだ。運悪く悲しい病気にかかっただけなんだ。だってそうだろう。俺たちはあんなにも明るくて楽しい仲間だったレナを
Bro, I get your
よく
point.
覚えてるだろ。
And that's totally fair. But you have no time to be, like, talking like this right now, I feel. But it does make for a nice emotional moment, so I'll live with it.
サトコ、僕はレナもみんなも素敵な仲間だと信じていますのですよ。あんなミオンさんにあんな乱暴する人を仲間なんて認められますの？サトコだってわかるはずなのです。心の中の鬼が暴れ出してどんなに悲しくても抗えない時があるのを知っているはずなのです。
Yeah, would have needed that injection. Satoko quietly hung her head. I didn't understand what Rika-chan was trying to say to Satoko, but maybe.
レナさんを信じてますわ。
偉いぞ、サトコ。
I hugged Satoko's head. Rika-chan's arms were tied, so she couldn't embrace Satoko, but she put her forehead closer to her in praise.
さて、世界最高のトラップ名人に聞くぜ。この部屋を爆破するにはどこに次元発火装置を仕掛ける？
お任せなさいませ。その装置はコンセントに繋がってなければいけませんのね。
ああ、そうだ。でもこの部屋とは限らないぞ。他の部屋にもガソリンが撒いてあって、そこに仕掛けてある可能性もある。
いいえ、そんな時間はなかったと思いますです。多分レナは教室のすぐ近くに隠してあったガソリンを持ってきてこの部屋に撒くくらいだったのですよ。
そういやレナは昨べ俺と別れるとき、明日の準備があるって言ってた気がするぜ。ってことは、何かの仕掛けを昨べのうちにしてあった可能性もあるな。
それだけのヒントで私はここに芋虫状態。
Working with limited information here, Satoko.
なかなかに意地悪な難易度の爆弾探しゲームでございますわね。
No lie.
サトコなら見つけられる。サトコに見つけられないなら俺にも無理だろうな。だから俺はサトコを信じて全部をかけるぜ。
サトコならできます。レナを救うためにも見つけ出してほしいのです。
I feel like it's to save a little more than just Rena, but I get the point.
仕方ありませんわね。本気の私の前にはレナさんのトラップなんて問題にもならないことを証明して差し上げてみせましたよ。
Let's all have faith in Satoko here.
さあ、もう一度聞くぜ。この部屋を爆発させるなら次元発火装置をどこに仕掛ける？
Satoko grinned and then closed her eyes to concentrate. Oh my god. We're gonna get a cut? What? Surely it's just like a... Okay.
何ですかあんたたちは。
Just like a jump cut.
どきたまえ、ここの責任者は誰だね。
Several cars had arrived, producing several men. They weren't from the Okonomiya station. One of the men was wearing a suit despite the hot weather. He approached me, pushing Kumagai aside. Yeah, definitely some Nozakis.
おや、これは。お久しぶりですね。県警本部の大高くんじゃありませんか。
No, is this just like the big honchos from the police?
言葉を慎みたまえ。もう君に君と呼ばれる階級ではない。
何かご用ですかね？ 大高くん。
What a guy. Bro changed nothing and put more emphasis on it.
非常に立て込んでいます。まさか県警がこの現場を乗っ取ろうつもりで？誰の了解で？
私が許可した、大石君。
所長！
高杉君から事情は聞いている。君がまいた種だという話も聞いているぞ。君はもう下がって、あとは機動隊に任せるんだ。
Bro, they're gonna fumble this, aren't they?
機動隊って。大高君、あんたまさか吸収する気ですか？
危険は重々承知だ。だがもう爆発まで時間がない。君が時間を浪費しすぎたのだ。その尻拭いを我々がしようというんだ。君らは引き継いで後方に下がりたまえ。
I couldn't talk back if both the chief and a guy from the prefectural headquarters gave me an order.
おいさん、何者っすかあいつは。
大高くん。昔、麻雀がくっそ弱いくせに生きがってたから、ちょいと叩き潰してやったことがありましてね。それともあれかな？剣道大会で偉そうにしてやがったから、面食らわして失神させたのを根に持ってるのかな？
That would probably make more sense to me. Obviously, we didn't get along.
大石君、現在の最新の状況を説明したまえ。
あんた、本気で突入する気で？こっちはもうすぐ睡眠薬で穏便に決着がつけられそうなんだ。それをひっくり返す機会。
もう遅すぎる。あと1時間あったらその手も検討できたな。突入は府警の専門部隊が担当する。
This is gonna end amazingly, isn't it?
君はバックアップに回りたまえ。
所長、あんた分かってますよね。あの教室は今や巨大な爆弾なんです。だが一番恐ろしい爆弾は教室じゃない。犯人の竜宮レナ本人なんです。我々はようやくそれをなだめ、穏便に解決する手順を踏み、それを実行しようとしています。時間は確かにもう10分もない。でも必ず成功させてみせます。講習は私が自らやります。ダメなら私が粉々に吹っ飛んでおしまいです。首相たちは離れてそれを見てざまあみろと思ってればいい。
大石君、府警の専門部隊はただの機動隊じゃないぞ。第二機動隊といえば君ほどの男なら噂くらい聞いてるだろ
う。なんすか大石さん、第二機動隊って有名なんですか
？5年くらい前だっけ、空港の飛行機に犯人が立てこもった事件があったでしょう。あれをきっかけに東京と大阪にハイジャック専門の特殊部隊が組織されたって噂は聞いてましたがね。実在してましたか。
でもなんだって府警の機動隊がこんなところに。
Decent question. Otaka smiled proudly.
たまたま県警機動隊との交流訓練があってね。
Convenient.
特別に応援を要請したのだよ。
相変わらずですね。話をすぐ派手にしたがるその癖は。
The company members exited the vehicles one after another and took position. They didn't move like policemen.
大高君、あんた学校で銃撃戦をやる気かい？一発で大爆発を起こすぞ。
安心したまえ。突入班が使うのは火器じゃない。ボート鎮圧用のガス銃だ。高圧ガスで催涙ガスを噴出する。何の問題もない。
へえ、そりゃ便利な水鉄砲があったもんで。ところでそのおもちゃは校庭を横断して教室まで届くほど便利なものなんで。
それは君が心配することではない。あとは我々に任せて下がりたまえ。
As I lifted my arms exaggeratedly, one elbow accidentally touched the car horn, which honked. Of course, I did it on purpose.
今のは前原圭一を呼び出すサインですか？
ねえ、そうです。前原君が気づいてくれるのに。
Yeah, he's out of time.
今さら彼に何を？
連中は多分グレネードか何かでガラスをぶち抜いてガス弾を教室に撃ち込んでその隙に突入しようってつもりでしょう。連中は竜宮レナを甘く見てる。彼女は本気だ。
Yeah, no kidding.
ガラスの割れる音でもライターをためらわず点火する。
It definitely would.
特殊部隊には制圧できないってことですか？
できないに決まってるだろう。
Not without the deaths of 25 children on their hands.
だから今まで慎重にやってきたんじゃないの。竜宮レナは初めから死ぬつもりなんだよ。
Yeah, I guess that's actually 26 when you put it like that, but...
命が惜しくない奴に突入なんて意味がないんだよ。前原さんしかいない。
おいさん、繋がりました。
もしもし、おいし、聞こえてたら咳払いお願いします。緊急の話があります。聞いてください。
どうせ悪い話だろ。
No, you have like less minutes than you thought.
悔しいですが、ビンゴです。県警が介入してきて、お膳立てをひっくり返すつもりです。特殊部隊が校舎に突入しようとしています。
おいおい、護身用スプレーでひるませてもその1秒で点火されちまうってんで、俺はずっと抑えてきたんだぜ。突入なんてそんなの無理に決まってるだろ。
県警は竜宮さんがすでに死ぬ気であることを理解していません。ライターは脅しで点火するわけないと鷹をくくっています。多分5分以内に突入するでしょう。突入する前になんとか竜宮レナからライターを奪ってください。
Yeah, you have to subdue her in that time.
それは次元破壊装置を何とかしろというオーダーに追加で。
ねえ、そうです。
Yeah, good luck, man.
マジかよ。
Good luck, man.
あと5分でレナからライターを奪って次元破壊装置もどうにか。
Yeah, I mean, it's just that easy, bro.
やってくれるぜ。
あなただけが頼りなんです。頼みます。
どうですか、さとこ。思いつきますですか。1階の廊下だけが知りたいんですの。そこにあるかないか。レナさんの行動パターンから考えて、1階ならあそこ、2階ならあそこ。
I mean, do we really have a way to, like, is she not, like, isn't she tied there with a bike lock?
1階の廊下をコードが横断してないかざっと見ればいいんだな。
多分あるはず。普段のレナさんなら断言できますけど、今のレナさんはノイズだらけで行動パターンが読み切れませんわ。
よし、任せろ。もう悩むにも時間が足りねえよ。最後の2択は俺が直接探る。
I don't want another tragedy. You demons down in hell. I bet you're just waiting for an amusing ending to unfold while eating some popcorn. I won't let that happen. I'm going to change everything. And then I'm going to make you pick up your popcorn off the floor. I spoke to Rena as she continued on with her story about the aliens.
何？どうしたの、ケイチ君。
いや、今音が聞こえなかったか。
Rena went quiet and looked around. Rena became totally paranoid about everything. Once she became worried, she couldn't ignore it.
本当に？ケイチ君。
ああ、聞き間違いじゃない。
I knew she'd want to check it herself, but she really couldn't leave the room for something like that. So in that case, she'd have to ask me to check for her. Rena must have been thinking the same thing.
ケイチ君、見てきて。
Smart thinking. Rena gave me an order with a fake smile on her lips.
ああ、わかった。
Rena watched me go out into the hallway. As I did, she spoke to me.
レナを怒らせちゃ嫌だよ。
信用しろ。俺はレナの仲間だ。
うん。信じるよ。信じるから。裏切っちゃ嫌だからね。
Yeah, that would never happen. After being freed from Rena, I looked for a cord in a hurry. I didn't even have 5 minutes. The office probably had more outlets than anywhere else. I headed for the teacher's office. Shit, where were the outlets? Unlike light switches, outlets couldn't always be found near entrances. Damn it, why do the clocks in the teacher's office have to make such a loud ticking noise? Yeah, it's
大丈夫なのですよ。
so dramatic.
ケイチなら、レナさんなら、いつものレナさんより疑り深いレナさんなら、どこにどう仕掛けますの？
She's gonna figure it out. What's she gonna have to do? Yell it
この
out?
程度がわからなくて、レナさんのトラップで最後なんて、北条聡子、一生の恥ですわ。
なんだこれ。
I saw a plug inserted into the unit under the principal's desk, and I also saw a cord extending under the door to the reception room. There shouldn't have been any reason why a cord had to be extended into that room. The reception room had an outlet of its own. I tiptoed over to the reception room and opened the door. Squeak. The door squeaked as I cracked it open a little. I poked my head inside the reception room. I saw the suspicious cord crossing the room and extending under the door to the hallway. I followed the cord through the reception room. I opened the door to the hallway, and the cord was extending into the storage closet. The storage closet was used to hold cleaning chemicals. I could smell them from here. The cord was extending into there. I carefully opened the door and turned the light on. The cord was attached to another extension cord, and there was an alarm clock that didn't belong in there.
見つけた!
The time bomb. So all I'd have to do was to unplug the cord, I feel like this is gonna somehow be like a decoy. I picked up the alarm clock. It looked like a normal alarm clock. Actually, it was a normal alarm clock. I remember Kumagai calling it a kitchen timer. He said it was a bit like an alarm clock, but this wasn't a bit like an alarm clock. It was an alarm clock. Wait, didn't alarm clocks use batteries? This alarm clock was a battery-operated one, too. I looked at the extension cord, and there was nothing plugged into it. Eh? What was this extension cord for? Why was this extending all the way from the teacher's office? It was a trap. A black shadow was covering me. I felt my body freeze. It was so frozen that I felt it was about to crack. Yeah, it was a trap. God damn it. Is that it? I turned around slowly and saw someone holding a hatchet above their head. I dropped the alarm clock. It made a noise as it hit the ground.
どうしてケイイチ君は延長コードをたどって目覚まし時計なんか持ってるのかな？かな？
Buddy, there's no explaining your way out of this one. Pull out the pepper spray. All the cells in my body were frozen. This is Rena's trap. Rena was suspicious of everyone, including me. This whole time, she thought there was someone connected to the people outside. This was a trap to lure that person out. Only the people outside knew about the time bomb. I was told about the whole thing, and so I followed the extension cord and picked up the alarm clock. How stupid of me.
待て、レナ。
Yikes. You did get outplayed. Rena hit me with the backside of the hatchet earlier. It was painful, but it didn't kill me. But this time she was holding the hatchet the right way. It wouldn't just crack my forehead. It would split my entire head open. Rena lifted the hatchet mercilessly. She moved slowly, as if everything was in slow motion. She looked almost divine. Maybe it really was holy. I was praying, after all. Praying? What was I praying for? I was praying for my life. What? Rika? Weren't you tied up? It was so sudden I couldn't tell what happened. Rika-chan had jumped onto Rena from behind. I didn't know what kind of weapon Rika-chan used, but Rena started moaning. It clearly hurt. That brought me back to reality. I couldn't just watch them. I had to get the lighter from Rena. Rena knew I was after the lighter. She closed her fingers around it tightly. Rika-chan was grabbing onto the arm Rena was holding the hatchet in. I wanted to tell her to run, but thanks to Rika-chan I could use both of my hands to get at the lighter. The lighter flew out of Rena's hands. It hit the hallway and dropped down to the floor. I picked it up. At the same moment I did, Rena managed to shake off Rika-chan. Oh, Rika's so dead. Rika's so dead. There's our chance. I turned in Satoko's direction. Alright, there's another one. So, we'll quick save here, too? I don't know where I'll have quick saved. I'm gonna manual save. Just way back here. So I can look at the choices later. We're doing the right one. I heard Satoko screaming from the classroom. Satoko had figured out where Rena hid the time bomb. I wanted to catch Rena, but I didn't have time for that. I had to do something about the time bomb instead. Rika is not escaping this alive. There's no shot. Rika-chan had spread her arms, blocking Rena's path forward.
ケイイチ、これは初めてではないのですよ。覚えていないのですか？前の時、僕にあとわずかの頑張りがあれば、ケイイチは今度こそ間に合わせる。
I'm actually not completely sure what she's referring to. I mean, like, presumably it's got to be one of chapters, like, 2 or 3, but does it... I don't know which of those it fits. That's probably... I mean, either way. She's definitely attempted to help us before with her life on the line, but... Let's just move on for now. I didn't know what Rika-chan was talking about. I genuinely am not sure what she's referring to. There was not a situation like this, at least. You know? But there was one thing I did know. Just like Ren and Mion were ready to give up their lives for their friends, and I was willing to give up mine. Rika-chan was prepared for that too. Therefore, telling Rika-chan to run was like telling her she wasn't my friend. And so, I will depend on my friend, Rika-chan.
Rika-chan!
We gotta go. Leaving it to Rika-chan, I dashed for the classroom. Hey, where the hell is it? As soon as Rika heard Keiichi's footsteps reach the classroom door, she sighed in relief. As she did, Rena's black shadow came ever closer. I mean, Rika always knew she was gonna die today.
すごいよすごいよ。これは部活じゃないんだよ。リカちゃんは殺されちゃうよ。怒ったレナにきっと殺されちゃう。へえ、私が怖くないんだ。リカちゃんすごいよ。
Rika grabbed a mop as she ran from the storage closet. She picked it up and held it upside down like a spear. Rika's stance told Rena that she was ready to fight. Rika didn't look like a little girl anymore. She looked so brave that Rena was even startled by it.
すごいね。
Yeah, she's been around for a while.
殺されるのが怖くないんだ。
Rika smiled cynically. Rika usually never smiled this way.
この私が死を恐れるとでも、幾百の死の山脈を越えてきたこの私が、今さら何を恐れるというのか。
I was gonna say, she's played these games before.
君、リカちゃんじゃないね。あの夜に出会ったリカちゃんもどきの方だね。
I think they're one and the same.
正体を表したな、宇宙人め。
本物のリカちゃんをどこへやった？
本物のリカ、ここにいるわよ。
みぱ
Oh, that is so evil. That is devious. Using that voice and then hitting a meep and a nipa back to back. That is crazy.
ああ、その小バカにしたところは間違いなくリカちゃんだね。そう、お社様は宇宙人だった。古出家はその末裔で宇宙人の直系の一族だもんね。
Sure.
脳みそを叩き割って中の寄生虫を引きずり出してやるからね。
These voice actors are really good at doing those disturbing laughs, I will say that. Rena raised her hatchet and charmed at Rika with a scream. Rena looked like a beast charging towards its prey. Rika took a step backwards and lowered her body, preparing to counterattack. I mean, again, I got a quick save there. She did that with no hesitation.
あいにくね。遊んであげるわ。おいで、ナタ女。
Hatchet Girl is crazy. That's Rena's new name.
いいですの、ケイチさん。すべてのヒントと答えはもう朝の時にありましたの。
Yeah, you smelled the gasoline.
落ち着け、佐藤。俺に分かるように話せ。つまり、どういうことなんだ？
It's simple if you just remember. Come on, it's quite obvious when you do.
ねえ、今日は臭い。
Yeah.
窓閉めて。
I remember that.
バカ。窓を閉めたらもっと暑くなるんだよ。
We'd been smelling gasoline coming from outdoors. There were no forestry service people in the office, so they weren't doing any work today. The smell wasn't coming from anything they were doing. In other words, it was the smell of Rena's gasoline. Rena hid the gasoline near the classroom. She had it in a plastic container. You can't smell gasoline that's in a plastic container. So in other words, she had more gasoline ready than just in the container she used to spread it around the classroom. Where was the smell coming from? Was it coming from outside? Vaporized gasoline is heavier than air. It sinks. There was another hint other than that.
あれ、俺たちのボールがね。王女、お前がまた隠したんだろう。
誰がそんなものを隠しますの？どうせ隠すならもう少し気の利いたものを隠しましたよ。
I don't see how this is a hint. I'm gonna need this one explained to me. Kids who love to play with their ball never lose it. It should have been in the same place it always was, but it was gone. So that must mean that Rena used it for something. The gasoline was coming from above. A ball was missing, so maybe it was stuffed somewhere.
レナさんは雨どいの出口をボールで詰めて雨どいいっぱいにガソリンを注いだんですの。どこから？2階の屋根の上からですのよ。
The drain canal extended along the roof of the second floor and then came straight down to the ground. It was plugged and filled with gasoline. It was like a huge Molotov cocktail that extended from the ground to the roof of the second floor. Furthermore, the drain canal ran by the classroom windows. If the canal exploded, the classroom would explode too. Yeah, so that makes sense.
つまり、 次元発火装置は。
2階の窓から延長コードか何かで引っ張って屋根の上ですわ。
I picked up a pair of scissors and cut Satoko's bonds.
そういや、リカちゃんはどうやって縄跳びを解いたんだ？
あるございましたわね。私は解けるほど痩せてなくて。
She just slipped out. I rubbed Satoko's head.
みんなを頼む。俺は屋上へ行く。
I thought there were like bike locks tied to them, right? Didn't they say you'd have to like use tools to get through them and it might create sparks? As I jumped out of the classroom, Satoko stopped me. Was that only for Mion or?
なんだよ、まだ何かあるのか?
Something silver sailed through the air. I caught it. It was a metal bat. It's Satoshi's bat. Oh, we've come full circle.
後でちゃんと返してもらうでございますからね。
すまん、サトコ。
Please tell us we're not going to run by and see Rika dead on the ground. The metal bat fit right in my palm. I didn't even feel its weight. It really eased my mind. The name Satoshi was written on the handle. This was the bat that belonged to Satoko's brother, Satoshi. He was the victim of last year's tragedy. You and I, we're the same. I won't let another tragedy take place. I'll treat this as a gift from you, who was waiting in the wings. Let's rip apart the script of this demonic tragedy together. Let's go, Satoshi. Let's do this. As I tried to run up the stairs, I heard a loud noise coming from the hallway by the teacher's office. They're quarreling. I saw Rika-chan rolling on the floor. Damn, Rika-chan! You held out as long as you could.
くそ、身体年齢があと5つも。さあ、次はケイイチくんだよ。
やべえ。とにかく上だ。今は屋根の上だ。よく
気づいたね。よく気づいたね。でも、させるもんか。
So Rena's gonna chase us. Rena's face looked unbelievably scary. I figured it would. She was ready to rip me apart if she caught me. In that case, just try me. I jumped up the stairs, skipping every other step. I turned on the bug in my pocket. I didn't have time to put in the earphones. As Rena flew up the stairs, her foot got caught in a jump rope. She tripped, and then 3 buckets fell on her head. The result of Satoko's trap. When did she set this? I mean, W Satoko, but when was this set? Like... Satoko leaned against the wall and waved her index finger in a mocking gesture. That's crazy.
なかなかの線を言ってましたけど、まだまだこの私とトラップ勝負をするのは3億5000光年くらい早くてでございましたよ。
Light years are a measurement of distance.
さとこちゃん、光年は距離だよ。
That's crazy. Correcting her right now. Smash! The 4th bucket hit Satoko on the head. I continued up to the rooftop. What? What just happened? Rena ignored Satoko and ran after me.
大石さんか。やったぞ。ライターは奪った。次元発火装置も分かってる。屋根の上、雨どいの中だ。今抑えに行ってる。
大石さん、まさかあれじゃ。
Oishi grabbed the pair of binoculars from Kumagai and looked at the rain gutter on the rooftop. There was something like an alarm clock sitting there. The cord from the clock was extending into the 2nd floor window. It was so obvious, but they didn't even notice it until just then. Bro, okay, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty rough. Satoko was working hard to remove her classmates' restraints, but she couldn't do anything about the bike lock on Mion's neck, so it was only a Mion issue.
私はいいから早く逃げて。
Get him out of there. I mean...
あら、ミオンさんらしくもない。こういう瞬間でも我が部の部長らしくあるべきではございません。部長はただ一言、こいつを外せと命令遊ばされれば結構ですのよ。
She's not gonna let you potentially go down with her. Satoko reached for the back of her collar and produced a bent hairpin. Satoko opened the window, climbed into the windowsill, and faced the bike lock that was restraining Mion.
みんなは全部のカーテンを開けて窓を全部開けたら
Man,
外へ駆け出すこと。
you can really tell she got her face bashed in. She's definitely speaking differently. I kind of like that detail.
委員長、
Get the hell out of here.
前原さんはどうするんです？
ケイちゃんは警察が助けてくれるから、みんなはとにかく一刻も早くここから逃げて。ってもう外したの？
北条さと子にとって U 字ロックの U はこんなの楽勝の U でございましたよ。
You know, Satoko, I was familiar with your game and you still impress me, so... The binoculars were trained on the classroom. All the curtains were open, as well as all the windows. The children, in turn, were all running out onto the schoolyard. Oishi pushed Otaka aside, then grabbed his radio and yelled into it. Yeah, get your thunder stolen, idiot. Stupid Otaka. Otaka tried to grab the radio from Oishi, but Kumagai stepped in. There was a dull noise and Otaka crumbled to the floor, convulsing. Damn! What a guy. That stupid shit-eating grin, bro. Oh, that's brutal. Yeah.
ブレーカーを落とせば上がりだと思ったのにな。電源室は放棄。2階部分を制圧されたし。
I gotta go.
大高君、電源室確保失敗時はどうするつもりだったんです？
それに失敗しないための特殊部隊だ。
これだから坊ちゃん育ちは。
Bro said you suck.
あとは時計のコンセントを抑えるしかないか。
おいさん、前原君です。
スピーカーを貸せ。前原さん、時計の電源は2階の奥の部屋。
Bro's gotta get it. I shook my head repeatedly. I couldn't do that. Rena was coming after me, so I couldn't head that way. What else could I do? The only way was to go up to the roof of the second floor and get the clock from there. Oishi's locked in, bro. Oishi-san was telling me to go further up. Sadako only told me that I was on the rooftop of the second floor, and she didn't tell me where exactly. She only said it was in the drain canal. But maybe Oishi-san found it with his binoculars. I put my foot on the railing of the veranda and ran up to the rooftop. I'd never felt so light. I felt like I could lift myself with just 2 or 3 fingers. 30 seconds would be plenty of time. I could get there in half that. Over there, was that it? It was!
ああ、撃てたら撃ちたいけど、それ実弾ですよね。実は狙撃銃タイプの催涙ガス銃とか、そういうことだったりしません？
It'll be convenient, but probably not.
そういうのは軍隊で使ってくださいよ。日本の警察には必要ないですね。
Yeah, live ammo sniper rifles is certainly something. He's definitely gonna die for this, isn't he? How many more seconds did I have? Who cares? Bro's gotta go. I slid down the roof and grabbed the kitchen timer that was sitting on the drain pipe, which was filled with gasoline. There was a cord with a copper wire attached to it. This was supposed to create sparks and start an explosion. The hands on the clock kept moving, with the second hand trying to reach the minute hand. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. I'm sorry, I still don't do screams. I threw it to the ground. A moment later, I heard the noise of something breaking. Did I do it?
Yes!
I'm still half expecting the school to blow up. I hope this isn't cheering too early.
やった。
圭一さんはちょっとハラハラさせすぎですわね。余裕がないのはエレガントではありませんでしたよ。
That's how he rolls. Not only policemen, but the children who were on their way to ambulances raised their voices in cheer.
おいさん、消防からっす。現場は依然危険度最大につき、突入犯全員の即時退却を進言しています。
時限発火装置はもうないのに？
発火装置がなくても 危険度は最大級の現場だそうです。これ以上は突入班全員の生命に危険があります。
くそ、屋上の前原君をどうしよう。
Brother's cooked.
2階屋根なら。
おいさん、図面では校舎下に花壇があります。そこへ飛び降りるように誘導しましょう。
おいしより突入中の全敗へ作戦中止。退却せよ、退却せよ。聞こえますか。それから竜宮さんも
What?
もうそこは危険です。いつ爆発するかわからない。校舎の下に花壇があります。
花壇だって？畜生、ここからじゃよくわかんねえってのによ。
But it didn't sound like I had enough time to be looking for it. I noticed a white hand at the edge of the roof, followed by Rena's head. Yeah, I was gonna say, this is, not good. Rena slowly crawled up to the rooftop. I waited for her there.
まさかこんなところに隠したのを見つけるとはね。これで全て失敗か。
You planned extremely well, but you got outplayed at the end. Rena scratched at her throat. The band-aids peeled off and her throat started to bleed.
ゲームセットだな、レナ。
We were confronting each other on the rooftop of the second floor. This wasn't a club activity, but a real battle. Rena was glaring at me with hatred at first. What, is this how we're going to conclude the water gun fight? But maybe because she had already given up, she started smiling wickedly. I heard the chorus of the Higurashi in the background, as if to cool us down from the heat of battle. I didn't think we needed their service yet, though.
そうだね。すごろくだったらここはゴールでケイイチくんの上がりだね。でもこれはゲームじゃない。
True.
だからここはゴールじゃなくて行き止まりって言うんだよ。
ち、負けを認めないやつだな。
No, she does not.
レナはつくづく強いやつだよ。絶対へこたれない、くじけない。最後まで戦う。そして最後まで信じるんだ。
You can't deny her determination.
こんな時に褒められてもケイイチくんは私が最後の命をかけての計画を
Yeah,
ぶち壊しにした。
I suppose you're not going to really be able to, appease her at this point.
人類を宇宙人から守ろうと必死に戦ってたのに、これで人類が滅んじゃったらケイイチくんのせいで滅んだって歴史に残っちゃうんだよ。
Big if, Rena. I didn't mean to laugh, but I couldn't help it. My name would be written down in the history books of the aliens as the one who destroyed the human species. Somehow that sounded kind of cool.
レナ、お前が何と言おうと、このゲームは俺の勝ちだ。すでに俺が勝ってるのに、レナが負けを認めないだけだ。
そうだね。そうなのかもしれないね。
Even if you kill him at this point, he won.
でも、そういうものかもしれないよな。ゲームってのは、勝者が決まって終わるもんじゃない。敗者が決まって終わるもんなんだ。ってことは、俺が勝つだけじゃダメってことだ。
That's kind of a hard quote.
へえ、それはどういう意味なのかな。
Laura said, it's not over. I tapped my shoulder with a metal bat, gesturing for Rena to come at me.
レナにきっちり負けたってこと。
Oh, we're getting this song. We're getting the song from that scene again. Oh my god. I won't run or hide. Do you know why? According to the rules of our club, we don't run from our enemies.
そこで白黒をつけてやるぜ。レナがもう負けてるってことよ。言ってやるぜ。寄生虫に宇宙人？バカじゃねえのか？そんなの今時誰が信じるんだよ。ダセえな。
Let him know.
鼻で笑っちまうで。
最初から信じてなかったくせに信じてたふりをしてレナを騙してたな。
To be fair, he did believe you for like 12 hours.
許せない。許せない。
レナが信じてるのは勝手だぜ。だが俺はそんなうさんくせえの信じねえからな。
We'll ignore that you did.
同じ信じるなら徳川の埋蔵金の方が楽しそうだぜ。
Fair.
それでも信じさせたいってんなら俺たち部活メンバーには簡単な信じさせ方があるじゃねえかよ。
This is a crazy way to end this.
勝った方が正義ってことだね。
This is insane. Oh my god. What a banger way to wrap this up with another duel. What the fuck? I kind of love this. I kind of love this.
そういうことさ。
Rena and I grinned at each other, and as we went around in circles on the rooftop, we both checked the distance between us.
レナが俺をぶちのめせたなら、俺も宇宙人の話を信じてやろうじゃねえか。朝晩 UFO を呼ぶ怪しげな踊りをして、牛小屋にキャトルミューティレーションに行ってやら。
What?
だがなレナ、俺にグーの音が出ないくらいにぶちのめされたら。
それを取り決める必要はないかな。
They're talking big for someone who's already been getting smacked around.
ケイイチ君なんかに私が負けるはずないもん。
Rena came at me with a heavy strike. I caught it easily with the metal bat. It looked like there were some sparks. This was finally getting interesting. Yeah, sparks? You better chill out. Hello?
まあそう言うなよ。意外にそうでもなかったりするもんだぜ。
You're gonna blow the whole place up. Get out of there.
俺も部活で何度も激戦をくぐってきて、ようやく分かってきたことがある。自分ってやつをな。どういう時に自分が最高のパワーを出せるか分かってきたんだ。
This is such a ridiculous ending.
へえ、それは何かな。
This is actually such a ridiculous ending, I'm not gonna lie. Rena, your hatchet can be a powerful weapon, but my metal bat is as powerful as your hatchet. Sure, it doesn't have a blade, but it reaches farther and it's easy to handle. I won't be going for a defensive battle. I'm gonna fight you face to face, and I'm going to defeat you. Bro's going for gold. I'm sure I'm stronger than you physically, but you're better at drawing out your true potential, Rena. In other words, we're equally matched. This is great. I won't need to hold back at all.
私を叩きのめしたらどうするって？ほらほらほらほら！押されてるんじゃないかな。
遊んでやってるだけだぜ。まあ見てろ。レナをコテンパンにしたらどうしてやろうかね。
I'm not sure it really matters who wins this fight because they probably both walk out of this dead. Honestly, if it would be so funny if at this point Keiichi lives this chapter after all of my he's gonna die, bro, he's dead, he's so dead. They're talking about sparks now. Come on, like this place is about to blow up, right?
これだけ互いにコインやチップをかけまくってるんだ。
Could you imagine you're the police and you defuse, you help Keiichi defuse this situation and then he ends up having a hatchet versus baseball bat fight on the roof, like after it's basically done? That's insane.
得ることの叶わない勝利に酔うもまた川山用の醍醐味だね。ケイイチ君の虚勢が痛々しいよ。
Well, we'll see. We'll see who's bluffing here.
ち分かってないな。
Bro's feeling playful after helping 25 hostages live. Well, 24. He's the 25th.
俺はご褒美のデカさに比例してパワーアップする男だぜ。
Bro, they playing now. Like this is so ridiculous.
もちろん、俺専属のメイドさんだよな。
Good luck with that, bro. She's going to prison.
朝はおはようございますから。
Prison.
夜はおやすみなさいまで。たっぷりご奉仕三昧だ。メイド衣装は監督に全面協力を受けて日替わりチェンジのお楽しみ。
Bro, you're into this.
おお、夜はおやすみなさいまで。いや、今夜は寝かさないぜ。
Bro, what? What?
なんてどう
だ? I guess this is one way to deal with the stress of that situation that you were just in. We all have our own outlets, I guess.
ケイイチ君らしいな。そんなのはごめんだね。むしろ私が勝って逆の立場にしてあげるよ。
You're wielding a hatchet. Something is telling me if you win this fight, it's gonna involve Keiichi being not alive. We both laughed like crazy people as we struck at each other. was strange how much fun it was becoming. Rena and I were trying to kill each other, and yet it was a blast. Sparks were flying. We could get seriously injured. If we fell off the rooftop, we'd break our bones. Yet this was so much fun. I had been mourning and crying all day today while Rena terrified me. And how did all that turn into this? That's a great question.
ってことは結局、俺たちにシリアスは似合わねえってこった。互いの火花を浴び合いながらヘラヘラしてるのが互いに性に合ってるってわけだ。
おあいにくだね。レナはエレガントで上品なのが大好きなの。そういうヘラヘラしたのはケイイチくんが一人でお楽しみ遊ばせ。
It's working well for him so far, I guess. Rena's next strike came at a strange angle, but I managed to deflect it.
甘い甘い全然ダメだぜ。やっぱりお前撃沈確定だな。
This is really going. This is a long fight, huh?
ようやく体が温まってきたところだよ。こんなのウォーミングアップでしょ。
はあ？バカなりゃしねえよ。こんなのお散歩程度だな。
Bro is talking all the talk.
お前汗だくだぜ。
お前は汗の代わりに血を垂らせばいいや。
Yeah, I mean, she's playing to win. She's not trying to keep a servant, bro. I'm telling you. Yeah, finally! Like, how long have they been duking it out? Were they just, like, entranced that they just got front row seats to the Duel of the Fates? Like, what? Oh, they must have been screaming. He don't care. He is enjoying the front row seats to the Duel of the Fates.
何をぼーっとしてるんですか。彼を救出する方法を考えないと。
I wish I couldn't figure out why he was distracted, considering the seriousness of the situation. He was engrossed in watching the two of them fight with the sunset behind them. How long are they duking it out? But Oishi wasn't the only one. Everyone watching was captivated by their battle on the rooftop. Bro, they think this is Star Wars! At that moment, a sudden loud voice broke the silence. The students who were about to climb into the ambulance were cheering him on. Mia was being loaded onto a stretcher with bandages around her head, but even she sat up, captivated as she was by Rena and Keiichi's duel. Yeah, I mean, I know she's locked in on this. Our once happy days were supposed to have shattered due to a series of misunderstandings. They were supposed to be irretrievable. But, why? Why did I feel this way? Actual fight to the death, and we're talking about our happy days were supposed to be in the past. What? This was such a close game, but it wouldn't be fun to stay in a stalemate forever. Ren and I kicked at each other with perfect timing and increased the distance between us.
楽しくなってきたぜ。どうだレナ。最高に楽しくねえか。
She's enjoying it, bro.
レナは最初から楽しいよ。でも、ケイイチ君の頭を叩き割ったら、もっと楽しいかな。
You just had to take it too far, huh?
かな。
ひょー、危ねえ。おらおら。こっちへ戻ってこい。
They are really dragging this out. I'm not gonna lie.
like,
I enjoy that they went this route, but holy, it's lasting for a while.
何度もあるもんじゃねえ。まんべんなく楽しもうぜ。
絵になるよ。絵になるね。
This would make a great picture. Perhaps a great thumbnail? No, I don't want to use Rena with the hatchet.
私たちほら、 いつの間にか月を背負ってるんだね。
Or at least her obviously having a weapon.
風が気持ちいいや。
It was such a fantastical scene. Two people were fighting on the rooftop of the school building with the moon behind them. It was almost unbelievable. All the policemen and children looked at the mysterious and fantastical scene from a distance, completely entranced. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but nobody said anything. Why does it look like they're having fun?
なんかよ、こういう涼しさでこう熱くなるとよ。綿流しの祭りの時を思い出すんだよな。
They are legit having fun.
どうも俺は静かに夕涼みってのがダメでさ。月が出るとはしゃがずにはいられなくなっちまうんだよ。
Bro thinks he's a werewolf. All those club members went crazy on the night of Watanagashi. The mayor scolded us by the end of it, but we laughed at each other and promised to do the same thing again next year.
月にクルーか。なんだかかっこいいじゃない。私たちはもう月に狂ってるのかもしれないね。
Maybe! You just tried to kill 25 hostages! Yes, maybe you're a little crazy, Rena.
ああ、同感だな。仲間と命のやり取りをしてて、そいつが面白いと感じちまうようじゃ。
But yes,
俺たちは最高に言っちまってる。
this is sufficient proof that they're crazy.
こいつがそうさ、ルナティックってやつさ。
Some people say the moon has the power to arouse passions in people. Maybe that's true, and maybe it's not. One thing that's for sure is that even if it were a new moon tonight, we would still feel the same way. As our surroundings got darker, the sparks we'd create with each hit started to look like fireflies. Hey now, isn't there gasoline in the drain pipe right nearby? Who cares? If an explosion happens, it happens. Bro, what? Hello?
ほら、何をやってんだか。バットが汗で滑ってるんじゃない？休憩にしてハンカチで手でも拭いたら？
That would be appreciated.
その間に頭を叩き割るけどね。
Bro, come on. That's bad sportsmanship.
そいつはいや。
I can't believe
レナこそ汗でスカートがまとわりついて気持ち悪いだろ。脱いでもいいんだぜ。
His diversion tactic also had to be perverted. What a guy.
俺は手を出さないで見物するけどな。
へえ。それで足に見とれてる隙にガツンとお見舞いするよ。
楽しいな、レナ。
How is this still going, bro?
悪くないね。
We flew, we danced. We struck, we laughed. We stepped back once in a while to catch breath and then charged at each other and let the sparks fly. We aimed at each other as we went around in circles on the rooftop of the school, our special stage. Rena and I were all sweaty, but we weren't exhausted yet. The beads of sweat rolling down my body just tickled me. We exchanged furious blows one after the other. Neither of us was at an advantage or disadvantage. Neither of us exulted in victory or raged in defeat. The battle with Rena in itself was fun. It was like a dance. A dance I couldn't dance by myself. It was a dance I could only dance with somebody with whom I was equally matched.
あの時さ、クラス全体の部活の日、水鉄砲で一騎打ちした時さ。
Yeah, I mean,
思わなかったか。
it was an obvious reference to that.
実は私も思ってた。
This is their...
もう一回こんな戦いをしてみたいって。
Is that ever the thumbnail? Who will see. As we thought that way on the rooftop, our classmates down below must have thought the same. Our fight was so pure and passionate that everyone thought the same thing. We want to join them. Who is thinking that, bro? No one is thinking that. I promise you. I promise you no one is thinking that.
水鉄砲だったけど、やることは同じだった。
あの時より面白いぜ。今度は水の残量なんか気にしなくていいんだからよ。
水鉄砲じゃ火花も出ないしね。
Yeah, I'll give you that. You can't create sparks with water
撃
guns.
ち合うこの感覚もないもんな。
We both been breathing hard, waiting for the right timing to take a step forward. In the midst of that, we grinned at each other.
あの時も多分言ったセリフだが、あえてもう一度言うぜ。
じゃあレナもあの時と同じセリフで返そうかな。
We both smiled wickedly in the same moment.
やり合うのが楽しくてならねえぜ。決着がつくことすら興ざめするくらいにな。
Bro, I don't think it ever will end. How long has this been going on?
負けても恨まないでね。
ああ、恨まない。この勝負を終わらせた自分の不甲斐なさを恨んでやるぜ。だがそいつを恨むのはどうやらレナの方になりそうだな。
どうかな。ケイチ君、足が藁だよ。
くそったれー。
Alright, that sounds like a final strike type deal. Come on. We're just gonna keep going. Everyone was captivated by our fight. Bro, am I stuck in a time loop? They were swept up in our fight. We both had weapons deadly enough to seriously hurt one another. But we were both perfectly matched, and neither of us had hit the other yet. Why did they look so happy? This was just ridiculous. All the people below were just watching this fight on the rooftop with the beautiful moon as a backdrop. Not even the police could stop them. This was impossible. This battle was absurd, and absolutely impossible.
ケイチさん、なるべく屋根の中央を維持するんですのよ。わずかの高みを生かすんですわ。
Sadako and some of her classmates cheered Keiichi on, but there were some who were cheering for Rena too. What? Hello? Are we serious? She just held you hostage. She was going to incinerate you. To them, this is no longer a fight to the death. It was just the second round of their water gun battle. Bro, like, I get what they're going for, but how could you feel that way? A club activity is a club activity, and a game is a game. This is just the second round, so nobody would die. Okay, bro. Even though they had real weapons, nobody thought they would get hurt. Rika wasn't cheering. She was just looking up at the rooftop.
こんなの見たことない。
Yeah, I bet you haven't, Rika. I don't care how many loops you've done, there is no way you have seen something like this. What am I witnessing? Rika thought to herself. She thought Keiichi could win, not just against Rena. Rika thought Keiichi could even destroy the walls of the maze of tragedies that had no exit.
狙撃犯は何をしてるのかね。人質に危害を加えようとしているのだぞ。直ちに射殺したまえ。
As Otake yelled into the radio, Mion screamed for him to stop.
違うよ。レナを撃たないで。レナはもう違う。さっきまでのおかしいレナじゃない。あのレナは違う。だから撃たないで。
違うとはどういう意味かね。見たまえ。現に凶器を振りかざしているじゃないか。明らかな殺意だ。射殺しないと人質が危ないのだよ。
とにかく違う。レナを撃っちゃいけない。もしもレナを撃ったらケイちゃんはあんたを殺すよ。間違いなく。
Now I could see that.
断言できる。
どうして私をなのかね。
Don't take this from him.
あの二人は殺し合いをしてるんじゃない。ただ撃ち合って火花を飛ばして遊んでるだけなんだよ。見てわかるでしょ。そしてケイちゃんは語りかけてる。
I will say, I feel like a duel probably doesn't last this long if you're actually trying to kill the other person. It's like when you have a lightsaber fight. Like when you're actually trying to hit the other person, they're so short. But the real fun is in just smacking the swords, right? Over and over again.
自分がレナと対等なことを。対等というのは一番信頼できるということ。ケイちゃんはレナの目を覚ませる。いや、もう覚ましつつあるんだよ。
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense
レ
that
ナの
that's the
悪い
goal.
夢はもう終わりつつあるんだ。
ケイチ君はやっぱり最高だよ。君だけは殺したくない。君がいない世界はさぞや退屈だろうと思うよ。
That's one way to get her. Like, you know, Get her back to normal.
なんだか照れるお言葉痛み入るぜ。んでどうするんだ、その世界とやらは。宇宙人の侵略があって大変じゃねえのかよ。
Bro.
宇宙人なんて寄生虫なんてなんだかどうでもいいような気がしてくるよ。
Well, I guess that works.
世界が滅ぶならいつでも好きな時に滅べばいいし、御三家の陰謀なんて知ったことか。
ああそうさ、たとえ明日隕石がぶつかって
今この瞬間より楽しいことなんて他にあるもんか。
I guess a fight to the death like this is one way to get Rena back to normal. I mean, that sense of competitiveness and whatnot, it
そ
makes
れにお前
sense.
毒を盛られてて今夜で死んじまうんじゃねえのかよ。余命の短いやつがピンピンしやがって。
Got him.
そうだったね、すっかり忘れてたよ。
なんだよ、自分で作った設定だろ、忘れるんじゃねえや。ほれ、たまには首をボリボリかきやがれ。分かってるよ、もう痒くなんかねえんだろ。そりゃそうさ、首を引っかくより。
私たちはもっと楽しいことをしているんだもの。
I wish it would never end. While my body was screaming, I was breathing hard and felt dizzy from lack of oxygen. My upper body felt as light as a piece of paper, as if even a slight breeze could take me away. It really had been a blast, but I needed to end it soon. I felt the same sadness as in that water gun fight. Back then, it had been declared a draw.
今回はどうなるだろうね。
さてな、一つ言えることがある。
One thing is for certain is that you are being taken into police custody.
最高に楽しかったぜ。
I jumped backwards and slammed the roof with my bat. The sound was as intense as a huge drum, and the noise woke up the people who were captivated by our fight. Silence returned, and the chorus of Higurashi filled the air.
じゃあ、一度間合いを開こうじゃねえか。
そうだね、次の一撃で今度こそ決着をつけよう。
We started to move slowly and increased the distance between us. Everyone realized it. This fight was ending very soon.
じゃあ最後の最後だ。もう一回確認するぜ。
なんだっけ？
She does look normal now.
おいおい、この戦いはお互いかけてるものがあったのか。お前、そのために戦ってたんじゃなかったのかよ。
This is a new song, I think.
そうだったっけ？ごめん、忘れちゃってた。
Did we actually bring her to normal?
仕方ねえやつだな。
Is she fine now?
確認するぜ。まずは俺が勝った場合だ。俺の専属メイドになってご奉仕三昧の前にした。人前ではこれが私のご主人様ですってちゃんと紹介するんだぞ。
可愛い服じゃないと嫌だよ。
Bro, she's for real acting like normal now.
そこは任せろ。監督の完全監修のもと、古式ゆかしいオールドスタイルからちょっとドキドキな改造メイド服まで、もちろん特注でレナにぴったりとフィットするサイズなんだ。すごいだろ。
すごいすごい。負ける気はさらさらないけど、なんだか楽しそう。
次はレナが勝った場合だ。
I paused for a moment.
レナが勝ったなら俺はレナの話を信じる。
Rena was happy until just a moment ago, but that expression was suddenly wiped from her face.
宇宙人が地球侵略に来ていて、俺たちの頭の中には寄生虫が入ってる。
She finally realized how ridiculous it is.
そしてそれを園崎家が暗躍してて秘密研究をしてて、世界は明日から宇宙人に支配されるって話を。あとお前は毒で今夜最後はちゃんと見とってやるから安心しろ。
なんだか私が勝ってもつまんないね。ケイチ君が勝った方のご褒美の方が楽しそうだよ。
仕方ねえだろ。お前そういう話だからわざわざ学校を乗っ取ったんじゃなかったのかよ。
そうだったんだっけね。
I cannot believe this is working.
ごめん、忘れそうになってたよ。
Rena smiled sadly for a moment, but soon that expression was wiped off her face too.
俺は何しろレナのメイドさんがかかってるんだからよ。 意地でも勝ちに行くぜ。
ブーブー、レナが勝っても面白くないよ。
なんだよ。じゃあ今から帰るか。レナが勝ったらどうするよ。
Finally, Rena smiled happily again. The breeze dried our sweat. It was a good feeling. We no longer went crazy, even with the moon out. We could finally enjoy the coolness of the evening. It would be so nice if we could just lie down on our backs and gaze at the moon. Still smiling a little, Rena spoke.
私もケイチ君と同じご褒美がいいな。
なんだよそれ。俺がメイドかよ。どぎついな。
別にメイドさんじゃなくていいよ。でも他は同じ。朝は私におはようって言って、夜は私におやすみって言ってほしい。いっぱい私に優しくしてほしい。いっぱい私を楽しくさせてほしい。あれ
Quite a request.
これじゃ私が勝ってもケイチ君が勝っても私たちずっと一緒なんだよね。
I guess so.
一緒ではあるが、待遇にえらい違いがあるけどな。
This is something, man.
どうしてこんなにも大好きなケイチ君と私はこんなことをしてるんだろう。
さーてな、どうして俺たちは、何しに俺たちはここへ登ったんだっけ。
どうしてだったっけ。
Rena, it's probably best that you forget.
忘れちゃったよ。
It's probably best that you forget.
バカと煙は上へ登るってやつだろ。じゃあ俺たちは二人とも大バカだな。
バカ仲間だね。
仲間だな。じゃあそろそろ行こうじゃねえか。せっかくの体がクールダウンしちまう。
そうだね。体が冷めちゃわないうちに決着をつけよ
We readied our weapons and took our
う。
stances.
私ね、やっぱりやめないってそう言おうと思った。
I shook my head slowly.
ダメだ。決着は必要なんだ。じゃないと終わらない。せっかくの俺とお前の戦いがうやむやじゃダメなんだ。綺麗に終わらないとダメなんだ。
こんなのおかしい。ひょっとしたらどっちが勝っても負けてもご褒美がなしになるかもしれない。
That is very possible. So be careful with that thing.
その時も恨みっこはなしだぜ。だから先に言っとく。
何？
楽しかったぜ。
私もだよ。
レナ、仮に俺たちのどちらかが死のうと、だからまた会えたなら
今度は普通に遊んで普通に笑い合って、
Yeah.
普通に恋をしよう。絶対に互いを疑わない。互いを絶対に信じ合う。
Damn. The world where they fall in love in a normal way would be kind of nice, huh?
だから絶対に会えるよね。絶対だよね。
ああ、絶対だ。
Tears appeared in Rena's eyes. I noticed I was about to break down too.
じゃあ行くぜ。
There was no signal, but we stepped forward at the same time. Our shadows jumped in the moonlight. I mean, okay, come on, that's gotta be the thumbnail. We were fighting so viciously earlier, but now it was like we were moving very slowly. It must have looked like a shadow play. Everyone was watching the shadows dance. Did she just... Rena's shadow hit my metal bat violently. As a result, I let go of it. The metal bat bounced once on the roof, then rolled down to the schoolyard. I had lost my weapon. Here was Rena's chance. Of course, she wouldn't miss it. I was lying flat on the roof, and Rena got on top of me. Rena's knees were holding down my arms, and there was no way for me to fight back. Are we gonna die after all this? The moon was divided into two. The shadow of Rena's hatchet had split the moon right down the middle. This was the end.
やるな。腕が抜けねえや。
ねえ、ケイチ君、もう決着ついたんだよね。
おいおい、そいつを振り下ろすまではまだつかないぜ。
やだ。
うん？
嫌だよ。嫌だ。
Rena's arms were still raised, but tears were pouring from her eyes.
どうしてこんなことになっちゃったんだろう。どこで変になっちゃったんだろう。私はみんなを大好きで、みんなを信じていたはずなのに、どこで信じられなくなってしまったんだろう。どうして圭一くんにナタを振り上げているのかわかんない。どうして私はこんなにも大好きな仲間たちにこんなにも恐ろしいことをしてしまったんだろう。
お前
It seems like she really snapped out of it.
気づいたのか。この世界で気づけたのかよ。
自分で自分が信じられないよ。こんなにもあんなにも楽しい日々だったのに、どうして私は
Yet another mirror.
何の不満もなかったし、何の不安もなかったのに、どうして自分で壊してしまうような真似を。
レナ、お前はやっぱりすげえよ。
After I killed you and Mion, I didn't realize I'd done anything wrong, so I left a note and called Oishi-san. I still believed that someone else was at fault. Until, even after I was dead. I didn't even notice I had sinned. How sad it was to kill my friends because of a little misunderstanding, even when they were trying to help me. And how painful it was not to realize it was a sin.
だから、レナはすごいんだよ。仲間を一人も殺さなかった。お前は罪を犯す前に気づけたんだよ。
Well, an irreversible one, yes.
さすがだよ、レナ。さすがだよ。俺とは違うんだ。
Rena stood up slowly and lowered her hatchet.
仲間を傷つけたよ。みーちゃんにひどいことをし
You
た。
beat the hell out of Mion.
後で謝っとけ。俺的には当分の間、姉妹の入れ替わりを見抜けて、ちょうどいい傷跡だと思ってるぞ。
Yo, that is crazy.
それに、
誰も殺してないだろ。誰を殺したよ。
マミやリナと北条哲平。
ああ、あいつらか。
That did
あ
happen.
の二人を殺すことは正しいことだと思ってた。でもあの二人を殺した日からもう世界は狂い始めていったと思う。
Yeah.
だということはあの二人を殺すのは正しいことじゃなかったのかな。
Yes, it was. Even if it was about as understandable as it gets. Specifically, Rena.
正しいかどうかは知らんが、最善手じゃなかったことは確かだな。
最善手って？
そんなこともわからないのかよ。
I grabbed Rena's head and embraced her. Then I told her something so simple. It was so simple that anyone could think of it. But Rena didn't do it. I didn't do it either back then.
何かやばかったり、疑いそうになったり、辛いことがあったりしたときはな。
It was so simple.
仲間に相談するんだよ。
そうだよね。そうだよね。
Rena cried in my arms for a while. She cried about the wrong choice she made at the very beginning. The choice couldn't have been hard to see. I'm sure it was something that was within her grasp. How stupid it was to worry about it by herself. She had friends. She had friends whom she trusted. Why did she think she couldn't talk to her friends about it?
私が間違ってた。どうして話さなかったんだろう。なんで私はみんなを信じてるのに信じてなかったんだろう。
俺もかつてそうだった。だから俺は笑わねえぞ。でも気づけたならいいんだ。しかもレナは俺なんかよりずっと早く気づけたじゃねえか。
We will trust each other. We will never doubt our friends. We will rely on each other. We will talk to each other and help each other. That's why friends are always happy and why we can endure anything together.
じゃあレナ、幕の降りた舞台だけどさ、これで全部おしまいだぜ。
帰 カーテンコールって何かな？
まあまあ、俺の独り言だ。最後だけ付き合ってくれよ。
The curtain call. Kind of another flashback. It kind of reminds me like of the description of like from the intro and of the junkyard scene. We stood up together, holding hands. The moon was hanging behind us. When I nodded, Rena threw away her hatchet. It disappeared into the darkness below. Then I spoke to the audience in hell, the demons who weren't expecting this ending. I was proclaiming victory.
これで今宵はおしまいだぜ。俺たちは惨劇に打ち勝った。もう俺たちは互いを疑わない。
Bro, I don't think it's gonna be that simple, but
だからいつまでも結束している。
I hope it is.
だからどんな惨劇が訪れようとも二度と屈すると思うんじゃねえ。悲劇など知るか、惨劇など知るか。悪魔どもが喜ぶ脚本が俺たちが全部ぶち壊してやるぜ。
What a guy, but she just... Oh, was that it? Whoa! What is this ending thing? What is this ending theme? The incident at the Forest Service Field Office in Hinamizawa. Date of event, midday, June 25th, the 58th year of the Showa era. Location, Hinamizawa, Shishibone City, XX Chome, inside the Forest Service Field Office. Summary. On June 25th, the suspect, Rena, broke into this Forest Service field office in Hinamizawa. She forced her way into the classroom of the local school, housed within the office complex, and proceeded to take 25 people hostage. The suspect scattered around a large quantity of gasoline and held the school hostage for over 7 hours. The situation remained in a deadlock for some time, but at 1845, several hostages resisted and fled from the building. At the same time, a special unit from the Osaka Police Department's 2nd Riot Division arrived at the scene. 24 of the hostages were safely rescued. The remaining hostage fled to the roof, and after brief pursuit, the suspect engaged him in close combat. In 1910, she agreed to disarm and surrender, freeing the final hostage. Casualties, 4, all minor injuries. Detailed followed. Sonozaki Mion. I thought this said Shion. I was like, what the hell? She was captured by the suspect around noon that day. She escaped at 1845 and was taken to safety. The suspect inflicted minor injuries on her during the fight. Furude Rika. She was captured by the suspect around noon that day. She escaped at 1845 and was taken to safety. The suspect inflicted minor injuries on her during the fight. Hojo Satoko. She was captured by the suspect around noon that day. She escaped at 1845 and was taken to safety. She fell and suffered minor injuries during her escape. Maibara Keiichi. He was captured by the suspect around noon that day. He was released by the suspect at 1910. He received minor injuries when he engaged in combat with the suspect. Regarding the arrest, Ryugu Rena, she disarmed and surrendered to the police at 1910 and was subsequently arrested. She was taken to the Okonomiya police station in question. She admitted the outline given above. There has been some dispute about the accountability of the suspect during the crime, but after subjecting her to a psychiatric examination, the prosecution determined the suspect is fully accountable for her actions. The defense is in direct opposition to this and has submitted their own psychiatric examination report denying the suspect's accountability. The trial is currently in session. So, I guess we'll... Well, I was about to say we'll see if she gets arrested, but I don't know if they're going to continue Chapter 6. Like, if we're not done. I don't know if Chapter 7 is going to be a direct continuation. I don't know. I just don't know. For once, no one relevant died. So they could directly build on this if they wanted to. Right? That is a choice that they have. Higurashi When They Cry, Kai. Okay. Man. That was something. That was a crazy ass ending. I'm not gonna lie. That is not how I expected that to go at all. I mean, you guys heard me. I said a million times that I figured Keiichi was about to die, and it seems that did not happen. Because, yeah, we're now in the scenario. We've got scenario jump. The tips reading room has been unlocked, so we can read all the tips. And we got the staff room. And oh, there was a new tip. That is interesting. We're going to need to read that real quick. We're going to read that, and then we'll go to the staff room. And then, I don't know, I guess in the next episode, I'll do the alternate endings, even if they're probably kind of pointless. Extra few tips. The Demon Script. This has got to be about Rika and the other person talking about how they kind of broke free, right? Like, to a degree, right? They lived. The car began to rattle as the road turned from asphalt to gravel. The cry of the cicadas seeped through the tightly shut windows. Most people would open their car windows and let the natural air in along with the sound of the cicadas, but people are also spoiled. He'd rather keep himself cool with the air conditioning turned to max than listen to the sounds of nature. Usually it was the rainy season at this time of the year, but this June the summer had already come without any rain, just like how the weather was on that day 20 years ago.
ここはやっぱり空気のいいところだよな。
ええ。風光明媚ないい土地です。ひょっとしたら隣の村みたいに世界文化遺産に指定されることもあったかもしれないのに惜しいですね。
そのおかげで観光客がいない。実に快適じゃないか。どうして旅行者ってのは田舎じゃ交通法規を忘れられるんだ。道路いっぱいに横になりやがって。
20 years ago.
赤坂先輩はアウトドア今も？
最近はさっぱりだな。何しろ暇のない家業だからな。
What is going on here?
それはお互い様です。おー、いたいた。早な。
The other man noticed and waved his hand before anyone in the car could honk the horn. The man was a young fellow on a motorcycle with a big backpack on his shoulders. He looked like he was ready to go camping. Akasaka and his partner stepped out of the car and shook hands with the young man.
小隊長殿、ご無沙汰いたしております。
おう、今のとこはどうだ？元気にやってるか？今日は楽にしてくれていいぞ。こちらは俺が大学時代に大変お世話になった。
どうも、赤坂です。今日はもう一人大石という者とご一緒するお約束でしたが、直前に検査入院が入ってしまいまして。
よろしくお願いします。
さて、赤坂先輩、どこから回りますか？
Oops. His name was Mamoru Akasaka. He was a veteran detective from the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department. Despite the fact that he was close to his retirement, he hadn't lost his clear instinct and sharp eyes at all. Yeah, we are like jumping forward. Those eyes showed the confidence he'd built through many risky experiences, and he had a well-built muscular body and a fearless aura. He must have fought against many violent criminals. His connection to Hinamizawa went back almost 30 years, all the way to 1978. Oh, wow. He was, we're more like modern now. He was in the Public Safety Division in the Metropolitan Police Department. He came to Hinamizawa to investigate the kidnapping case of the grandson of Inukai, the then Minister of Construction. There, he met Oishi and Rika Furude. Rika Furude predicted her own death. Akasaka regretted for the rest of his life that he couldn't save that little girl from her fate. He saw the news of the great Hinamizawa disaster on TV and met up again with Oishi. They pledged to uncover the mystery of both the cruel fate that fell upon the little girl and the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa. What? Unfortunately, Hinamizawa was sealed off for a long time. As a result, all Akasaka and Oishi could do for the past 20 years was publish the little information they'd gathered and ask for their readers to send their tips and clues. But recently, the seal on Hinamizawa had finally been lifted. However, they couldn't come to Hinamizawa until today due to Akasaka's busy work schedule and Oishi's poor health. In fact, Oishi was supposed to come with Akasaka, but he was called in for an emergency health checkup. The other two who came along were Akasaka's juniors from university. One worked at the ground SDF, and the other was his subordinate. They were assigned the mission of sealing off Hinamizawa, so they were quite knowledgeable about the village. Akasaka took out a scrapbook from his bag. The corners of the scrapbook were all dented, making it look very old. Akasaka flipped through the pages, though, thought for a second and let them know his first destination.
では、鬼ヶ淵沼をお願いします。
了解いたしました。それではご案内いたします。
The young man got on his bike and waited for the others to get back to their car. They honked at each other to signal that they were ready, and the young man led the car to the swamp. Heading through the forest, they came to an open area where the ground was covered by concrete. There wasn't even a single drop of water in sight. All the water of the swamp had been replaced by concrete. That was what Onigafuchi Swamp looked like now. Whoops.
沼どころか水たまりもないな。
Interesting.
大災害後のだいぶ初期に埋め立てられたと聞いています。
Given that the prevailing theory
自分
was
が
a
ここへ
gas
着
leak.
任した時はすでに埋め立てられていました。
Yeah, given that the prevailing theory was a gas leak that originated from the swamp, that makes sense.
ちょっと降りてみよ
う。Akasaka got out of the car and walked to the center of the concrete-filled swamp. It wasn't a parking lot or a heliport. It was just a huge empty concrete space right in the middle of the forest.
なるほど。これがネットでよく言う UFO の着陸場というやつか。
What?
そんなことを言われてるんですか？
ここの写真がよくミステリー系のサイトに紹介されてるよ。
Yeah.
ここで政府と宇宙人が交流してたって言うんだ。
I mean, of course.
確かにこんな森の中にポカンとこんなコンクリートの空き地があれば不審に思うよな。
Yeah. I suppose if I saw that, I'd be, like, stunned. Volcanic gas erupted from this swamp in June 1983. The deadly mixture of hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide engulfed and destroyed Hinamizawa in a single night. The village was sealed off and the SDF covered the swamp with concrete.
ネットで騒いでる連中にも連中なりの根拠があるらしい。地質学的に言ってガスの発生源を塞ぐために沼をコンクリートで固めるなんてのは何の意味もないかららしいんだ。
What were they hoping to accomplish?
なるほど。確かに活火山の火口をコンクリートで埋めたという話は聞かないですね。
Be cool if it was that simple.
でもまあ、税金での無駄な工事は我が国の伝統ですから。
Lately, people who love things like supernatural phenomena and UFOs write on the internet about the Great Hinamizawa disaster. It's well known by now that the cause of the disaster was an eruption of deadly volcanic gas from a magma chamber. In 1986, a similar natural disaster occurred at Lake Nyos in Cameroon, Africa. So people easily believe that such a rare natural disaster could occur anywhere on Earth, and that was what happened in Hinamizawa as well. However, a rumor about another possible explanation begun to fly around on the internet recently. They say that the disaster was a cover-up by the government, and that it was actually a biochemical terrorist attack by aliens. Bro. Why has such a rumor begun to spread now? They claim to back up their theory with a secret document known as File Number 34. Someone online named File Number 34 for descriptive purposes, but the name spread and stuck since then because it sounded like a government conspiracy. People loved it. It's unknown how or from where they obtained these documents, but they posted scans and pictures, which were all ridiculous. Plus, more fake evidence was produced over time, so now even the existence of such documents are in doubt. The scrapbooks. File number 34 deserved a bit more explanation. However, since it all started on the internet, truth and lies were all mixed together, and it had become more like an urban legend. So this is what is believed to mostly be true. File number 34 was a notebook written by a nurse named Mio Takano who worked at a local clinic in Hinamizawa. File number 34 was most likely named after her. This woman was a researcher who studied the demon myth of Hinamizawa and tried to solve what it meant. The contents of this notebook state that she prophesied the Great Hinamizawa disaster of 1983. According to her research, a UFO crash landed in Hinamizawa a long time ago and sunk into Onigafuchi Swamp. The UFO carried parasitic bacteria from space, and they began to infect the locals. The infected villagers began to behave extremely violently, so much so that they were fit for the word demon. Mio Takano insisted that this was the explanation for the myth about demons pouring out of the swamp. An alien who survived the crash realized that the Earthlings had gone crazy because of the bacteria he brought in, and he decided to show himself to the villagers to help them out. This is how Yashiro-sama was born. The alien was able to cure the villagers with highly advanced technology, but couldn't eradicate the bacteria completely. Since the villagers looked up to the aliens as some sort of deity, the alien utilized its status to hand down specific rules to the villagers in order to stabilize the disease. The bacteria took a liking to Hinamizawa's habitat, so when a carrier of the disease left Hinamizawa, their symptoms would re-emerge. Therefore, the alien made it a rule not to leave the village. This leads to the legend of the transcendence of Onigafuchi. The weird practices and miracles that the villagers performed were realized by means of the advanced technology that they received from the alien.
そういうののマニアな人たちはつくづくそういうのが好きですよね。
This is interesting. I don't know what to make of this right now.
ノストラダムスの大予言だって99年にはあんなに騒いだのに7月が過ぎたら何事もなかったかのようにみんな過ごしてる。民放もあれだけ煽っておいて無責任たらありゃしない。
でも高野美代は南沢大災害を予見したらしい。それは嘘じゃない。確かにこのスクラップ帳に書いてある。
そんなまさか赤坂先輩、それ本当に？
As time passed, the bacteria stabilized in human bodies and became harmless. The alien and the bacteria began to fade away from people's minds. However, the alien had lived on for hundreds of years with the protection of the three families. It still lives on as the spirit of a deity in the secret temple of the Furude Shrine. The alien manipulated the bacteria living inside of the villagers and maintained control over them for hundreds of years. The alien wanted to regain its power and started researching how to bring back the lost powers of the bacteria, etc., etc. Things get much stranger from there. People say that the disaster was actually part of the aliens' plan to conquer the entire Earth by spreading the reawakened bacteria. The Japanese government has a secret division that fights against alien invasions, and they trained at Area 51 in the US, etc., etc., and they moved in to stop the invasion by sealing off the entire village, and they killed all of the residents by using toxic gas.
映画でそんなのありましたね。なんて言ったっけな。
この辺まで来ると、俺もそろそろめちゃくちゃだなとは思う。ただ、このめちゃくちゃを書いた高野美代は、昭和58年の6月中旬、正体不明の開始を遂げる。そして、その死の直前に、自らの死を悟ったかのように、村の一人の少女に、このスクラップ帳を預けて、意志を託したというんだ。
That girl is known as Girl A. Some guy who investigated the case was able to track it down to a girl named Rena Ryugu. Sounds known as the Rena Ryugu theory on the internet. Rena Ryugu inherited Mio Takano's will by means of the scrapbooks. She tried to fight against the planned invasion by holding a school hostage and demanding the local police uncover the aliens' plot. Of course, no one believed her, and they assumed she was in a state of paranoia. Back then, people assumed that Rena Ryugu took Mio Takano's delusions seriously and was motivated to commit a poorly executed crime. When she held the school hostage, Rena Ryugu told local police that the alien was controlling the three families and that it was plotting bioterrorism on a massive scale. And the very next day, the Great Hinamizawa disaster occurred.
まさか、そりゃ偶然じゃないんですか？
わからない。偶然ではないと思う連中に言わせると、その後の自衛隊による封鎖はおかしなことだらけらしい。例えば、この沼の埋め立てが一例だ。そして埋め立てる前に明らかに通常の地質調査とは異なる秘密の調査を行っていたとされていて、否定派はそれを単にガスの発生地なので危険に備えて立ち入りを制限していただけだと主張するんだがね。
This is insane.
それは多分否定派の言うのが正しいんじゃないかと思いますね。
他にも異常に長かった封鎖期間も疑惑の目が向けられている。近年に起こった離島の火山ガス災害の例を見ても分かるように 4,5 年で立ち入り禁止を解いている。南沢のケースは例外中の例外のケースのはずなのに、封鎖は極めて長期に及んだ。
あのケースは島民が帰島を強く希望したからと聞いています。南沢には帰る人がそもそもいないんだから、十分安全が確認できるまでたっぷり期間を置いただけなのでは？
あと、こんな話もあるぞ。南沢を封鎖していた自衛隊員たちは、定期的に血を抜かれての厳密な検査を受けていたといい、何らかの結果によって、自他ともに理解できない理由で任務を解かれることがあったという。それは実は、細菌感染の陽性反応を見るもので、自衛隊員たちをとどまらせることによる何らかの人体実験だったと囁かれているらしい。
それはやはりガスが湧き出す危険性があっただけに、健康管理には気を使ったということでしょう。それに普通のサラリーマンだって年に一度は健康診断を受け、その時に血を抜かれてるはずです。
まあ君の言うことももっともだと思う。あともっと面白い話もあるぞ。南沢大災害時に火山ガスは発生していないと主張する連中がいる。
火山ガスは発生していない？どういう意味ですか？
つまりもともと火山ガスなんか噴出してなくて、ガス災害というのが政府の嘘であると主張しているらしい。ほら、洋画の人類と UFO がコンタクトする作品でも同じ設定だったじゃないか。
To be honest, I have no clue what movie they mean.
それこそミステリーマニアのこじつけだと思いますね。で、その連中は何を根拠に火山ガスが発生しなかったと言っているんです？
Keiichi living.
封鎖解除後、ミステリーマニアがどっと押し寄せて UFO 説を補強するためにいろいろ調べたらしい。で、政府発表の火山ガス成分によるならば、硫化水素によって金属が腐食されたり、自然体系に大きなダメージが残るはずだ。にもかかわらず、
ひなみ沢にはそういう痕跡が残っておらず、よって火山ガスが噴出したとは到底思えない。とかなんとか言ってる。もっともあれから20年も放置された村なんだ。そんな痕跡を発見できたかどうかは疑わしいな。
やはりつくづくインターネットというのは信用できませんね。で、まさか赤坂先輩はその怪しげな話を信じてるわけですか？
最初は信じなかったが、最近は俺もわからない。
赤坂先輩ともあろうお方が UFO 話を信じるんですか？
このスクラップ帳、これが本物の34号文書だとしたら、昭和58年6月25日にひなみ沢営林署に人質を取って籠城した竜宮レイナが所持していた正真正銘本物の34号文書だ。
Dude, I like actually have chills.
ひなみ沢大災害の混乱で長いこと行方不明だったが、近年大石さんの古い友人が県警の保存庫で発見したらしい。
This is insane. Back then, Oishi thought Rena Ryugu was delusional, but after reading this again after the Great Hinamizawa disaster, some of the content seemed to hold vital clues. It's not the alien part that he was interested in, but her theory that an endemic disease of parasitic microbes in Hinamizawa was responsible for the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Please, come on, I was still batting for that. Of course, there's no proof that such microbes exist, so it still remains at a theoretical level.
大石さんの仮説なんだが、御三家が過去の信仰心を村に取り戻すために大昔の毒性の強い病原体を研究していたのは本当じゃないかって言うんだ。ひなみ沢大災害は実はその結果の失敗じゃないかってな。
The dramatic timing of that music was perfect. This theory is also based on the theories and myths he found on the internet. The village clinic's chief doctor died mysteriously right before the Great Hinamizawa disaster. The girl, Rika Furude, was brutally murdered on the night Rena Ryugu took the school hostage. Interesting. There could have been an underground research lab beneath the village clinic, and Dr. Irie could have been forced to do microbiological research, but he couldn't live with his own sins and committed suicide. Rika Furude could have been brutally murdered in a sacrifice for some sort of ritual ceremony in the name of Oyashiro-sama's revival. However, their experiment went wrong. Instead of the microbes being parasitic in the villagers, they became a killer virus. They exterminated the entire village in one night.
ただのガス災害じゃないことは明白なんだ。ガスが湧く直前に一人の少女が最近テロを予告し、数人の村人が開始を遂げている。それをスクラップ帳にまとめた高野美代本人も含めてね。あれを偶然の予見不可能な災害だとするにはどうも腑に落ちない要素が少なくない。
So is this the truth of...
この34号文書を読めばそれらは明らかにはっきりしてくる。
So is this the truth of Chapter 4? Is it actually a continuation of Chapter 6?
じゃあひなみ沢大災害は自然災害ではなく最近テロ。
In the modern era, everyone in Japan knows about the shocking incident where a doomsday cult created a nerve gas, sarin, I don't know, and unleashed it for the purposes of mass murder. But in the 80s, the idea of a single cult being able to carry out such an act of terrorism didn't even cross our minds.
その後の自衛隊の長い封鎖は、その殺人ウイルスを調査するためではないかと囁かれているんだが、すっきりしないな。
UFO に乗った宇宙人がって話よりはカルト集団がって方が近年は信憑性がありますからね。
本当に UFO が墜落した可能性もあるかもしれないな。竜宮レイナが人質籠城時に出した要求の筆頭は、鬼ヶ淵沼の底には墜落した UFO の残骸があるから引き上げろと。
バカバカしい。
それがバカバカしいか調べたくても、
They sealed it with concrete.
沼はコンクリートで数メートルの厚さで固められ、確かめる術もない。地質学的にはガスを防ぐ効果は何も期待できないはずのバカバカしい工事によってだ。
赤坂先輩がそれを立証するには、あとはここの住民の生き残りを見つけて 体内からその特殊な病原体ってやつを見つけ出すほか。
They're all dead.
それも致命的だ。ひなみ沢大災害後のひなみ沢出身者に対する魔女狩りのせいで、今や出身者の存在は不明だ。彼らは名乗りなどあげまい。
Right after the disaster, some people who were from Hinamizawa started displaying erratic behavior. When they started dying mysteriously and committing suicide in strange ways, people got scared of them and chased them out of their neighborhoods. The government was practically useless in protecting their privacy at the time, so the former residents of Hinamizawa lied about where they were from and have kept it that way since.
じゃあ、お手上げじゃないですか。
それでも諦めないのが刑事魂ってもんだよ。あれが自然災害じゃなかったっていう状況証拠はいくらでもあるんだ。何か一つの具体的証拠が見つかれば、芋づる式に全てを白日のもとにさらせるかもしれない。
まあ、あれから20年経過してますからね。真相はあまりに遠い闇の中かもしれません。
そうだな。21世紀の今頃になってここを訪れても何も分かりはしないのかもな。
What happened in Hinamizawa in June 1983? The only factual evidence that I had was that Mio Takano mysteriously died and left her scrapbook predicting a bioterrorist attack. A young girl took a school hostage to make people listen to this prediction, but no one took it seriously. The chief doctor of the village clinic committed suicide. People believe that a little girl, Rika Furude, was a reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama and she was brutally murdered. Bro, even after all that, she still didn't make it through the night. That is terrible, man. What was the truth behind this scrapbook? Was it written to reveal a huge conspiracy? Or was it just a bunch of delusions written by an occult maniac? If the contents of the scrapbook were true, the disaster could have been avoided if we had heeded the warnings of one girl. If they weren't true, then who created the disaster to follow the scenario of the scrapbook? After the sarin gas nerve incident, the words mind control came into the spotlight. In contrast to brainwashing, which can easily force a person to commit certain acts in the short term, mind control takes a long time to gradually make a person believe that what he or she must do is the right thing to do, and to act upon it as if it were his or her own idea. It's a form of character alteration, which is far more serious than brainwashing. The cult behind the sarin gas incident induced fear and anxiety into its members through its revelations of doomsday. At the same time, they ordered them to do certain things as means of salvation, and had them do so voluntarily. The formula was quite similar to how Rena Ryugu became a puppet of file number 34. So, does that mean that Rena Ryugu was mind-controlled by someone? Does that mean that the cult that mind-controlled her tried to cause the end of the world in order to increase the credibility of their teachings, just like the other cult did? Would that make file number 34 some sort of religious textbook for them? When I lose my grip of what's true and what's not, it sometimes makes me feel that someone might be laughing in amusement at this disaster. The scrapbook was like a script. It was a script for a tragedy that takes the lives of thousands of villagers in one night. It was a script for demons who laugh at that loss of human life. Someone wrote the script, someone performed it, someone watched the show and laughed. Damn it! What the hell happened in Hinamizawa in June 1983? Bro, what the fuck? Okay, I was not ready for that. That giant tip. Dude. What? Okay, so that tip was arguably just as lore crazy as the entire rest of this episode. Most of this episode, it wasn't... Okay, well, it depends on if I combined this episode with the last one or not. That would place it at over 5 hours, but I don't know if I care. Maybe I do. They're already split into two, so this one is probably just going to have a new intro, and yeah, like, I'll figure it out, right? And, okay. So that was probably most likely it was last episode, where we got the reveal that Keiichi straight up just remembers things, right? Which we'd seen before, but now it was glaringly obvious. This episode, though, there wasn't really that much that happened, truth be told. Right? Okay, no, that is completely false. There was a lot that happened, but not a ton that was like super duper relevant grand scheme of the plot, if that makes sense, right? We got a lot, right? And we'll summarize it later. And there were some things that were important for the whole plot, right? There were some things, right? But a lot of the biggest revelations were last chapter, I would argue. Until this moment, I would say. So, first of all, this tip is set way in the future, after the quarantine has been lifted. And the big thing that it tells us... The big thing that it tells us is that the Hinamizawa disaster still happens in this timeline. This is someone's plan, right? Without a doubt. For a brief moment, I was kind of like toying with the idea that somehow the disaster was caused by Shion, which, look, it's not impossible still. But it feels a lot less likely when you remove the ties from Chapter 3, right? Chapter 3, it was like, okay, Shion could easily have the motive, right? She really could. But what motive does she have this chapter? I don't see it at all. I don't see it at all, right? I really don't. And so that means that brief window where I thought that could be true, I was probably wrong. Wow. I mean, what a bombshell to drop after the chapter ended, mind you. After it ended. Jesus. Okay, like, I don't even know what to say. So the disaster still happens. It's almost certainly intentional. Akasaka is going through, and basically he's like, there's too much circumstantial evidence that this wasn't natural, right? And it makes sense, right? I mean, he mentions things like, they say it was volcanic gas. Where's the corrosion that should have happened? What happened to all the, like, wouldn't the wildlife be completely devastated? And it was like, I'm guessing, like, relatively fine. It was just the animals that died, like the living creatures, right? Did get smoked, admittedly. They did get smoked. And it's like, okay. And, like, another one was there were blood samples being taken of, like, people who were there, sealing the place off, and some of them, they just got instantly dismissed when their blood samples came back. Was there evidence found of these, like, microbe parasites? I don't know. They also completely sealed the swamp with concrete. Is there something in that swamp? Right? Like, because they said that's not going to stop volcanic gas, right? Wow, there's just so much more to consider now. Like, look, I knew that this was not a natural disaster, right? That was pretty obvious, right? But, like, we have a lot of evidence now, and potentially some things that could indicate what is going on there. Akasaka seems to buy the parasite theory, and honestly, he seems to buy the UFO theory. It's like, what? Right? Like, are we really going to do parasitic aliens? Is that what's happening? It's possible. It is possible. That's just crazy. If so. I did not expect that at all. Like, at all. The parasites, yes. I have for a while, I've been like, yeah, I think that would make sense, but aliens too? If that's true, goodness, that would be insane. That would be insane. Jeez. If so, Higu's really... We'll see if it's true or not, but if so, Higu's really done that thing that I've been saying where it's like... And it seems like this might have been the whole... Like, a lot of the whole chapter. It might have been ridiculous concepts. Disprove ridiculous concepts. Psych, some of them were real, right? Rena might have just been right? Like, that would be crazy. That would be the craziest outcome here, is if Rena was actually just correct, right? That would just be insane, right? We know Rena is she has incredible deductive reasoning, right? Should I just trust Rena? I don't know. Should I just trust Rena? Like, I literally don't know, right? Like, because Akasaka's reached the point where he's like, it kind of makes sense, like, to be honest. And I'm like, oh, shit. Dude, I don't know what to make of this. I think it's better off that I just, for now, summarize the video. I think episode 55 will be the next one, and I'll probably do the alternate endings. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about any theories I may develop, but for now, I just want to move on to talking a little bit about this episode and this chapter as a whole. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll do the staff room next episode as well. Staff room, the 2 alternate endings I didn't do. We'll do all that. So this was a really good chapter, and I would say this was almost certainly my favorite chapter. I mean, chapter 5 is really good, so I don't know. I could maybe argue for chapter 5, but chapter 6 is so good, right? First of all, let's talk about the episode first. This episode was really, really tense. I'll be honest, I think it kind of dragged a little at the end. But the whole, like, hostage situation was kind of insane, right? And I thought it was really well written, honestly. It was a really tense scene the whole way through, right? And that's what you want that scene to be, right? You want that scene to be tense and it to feel like at any moment they could fail. And that's what it felt like. I really thought Keiichi was going to die. I thought he was going to give up his life, right? To save everyone, and he didn't even have to, ultimately. Which was obviously kind of crazy. You know, like, but the way they wrote it, you always believed it was possible, right? I always believed, at least, right? And so that whole scene I thought was really well done. I don't really need to talk about it too much. It was a very long scene where it shows Rena's intelligence a few times, like, even with, like, the decoy alarm, right? Like, Rena was obviously crazy, but she was still very intelligent in the process, and she planned everything out so well. Like, she very nearly got away with that, right? But I mean, like, the scene goes on, and, like, everyone is eventually saved because of Keiichi working with the police and them I'm basically telling Keiichi, like, look, you're gonna have to find a way to get the lighter, and you're gonna have to find a way to unplug the alarm clock. And all of the students, right, or the club members basically band together, right? Rika goes in and protects Keiichi, right, to buy him time to talk to grab the lighter and then talk to Satoko, right, to find where the alarm clock is, right, and, like, they find it on the roof, and so it was an awesome display of them uniting, right? I thought it was an awesome display. I really did love that. But then after that, they get the alarm clock on the roof, and we get the really, really long, I'll be honest, the scene was super cool, and I loved how it mirrored the beginning, but I think it went on for a bit too long. I'm gonna be honest, right? The author is not exactly writing fight scenes to the quality of, like, Fate Stay Night. And so while it was fun and the emotional impact was there, and seeing Rena gradually grow back to her normal self was fantastic, right? I think it maybe dragged a little bit. But I still thought it was a really cool conclusion. Like I said, we kind of got to see the conclusion to their fight, right? Like the water gun fight from the beginning, that neither of them won. They tied it out, right? And like just them kind of going back to their old ways. It felt so natural, right? Like it felt like such a ridiculous ending that fits so well, if that makes sense, right? And so I really loved that about it. And I mean, so honestly, the summary of this episode is actually really short because there wasn't a lot that happened in terms of pure quantity of scenes. It was just a lot of intense situations and kind of emotional depth in some of those scenes. So that was really well done. And then we get the conclusion, like a little crawl, which was, I mean, it was pretty neat. Like seeing that kind of police report. But really, honestly, like I said, the real bombshell was the fucking tip at the end. That was insane, man. I still can't believe that. The Hinamizawa disaster happens again. Chapter 4 could be tied in with Chapter 6. I don't know that for sure. I thought that for a split second that it makes sense. In theory, it could. I will say they didn't say anything about Keiichi surviving this time, which is interesting, actually. Very interesting. I don't think they mentioned anything in Chapter 4 either, and that might be part of why I instantly drew that connection. But Keiichi's survival is one of the easiest signs that there wasn't a volcanic gas, right? And they don't, Akasaka doesn't point that out, so I wonder if he didn't live in this timeline, and if so, why not? Lots of questions there. And obviously still, you gotta wonder what really went on, but again, I kind of already talked about the tip, and like I said, I might talk about it a bit more in the next episode. So let's talk about this chapter as a whole. I thought this chapter was actually so well done, right? So the first half of the chapter did a really good job at showing Rena's distressed situation and some of her backstory, right, with her parents' divorce and how that affected her. And so when she sees Rena, it's already bad enough. But then she finds out what Rena is really trying to do, and things get really bad. And ultimately, things spiral out of control, and she kills Rena and Teppei, which ultimately results in the junkyard, the beautiful junkyard scene, mind you. The beautiful junkyard scene where Rena is caught trying to, bury them, right? She's caught by her own friends, and they have this moment of banding together. We're a family of friends, right? Look, we might have sinned in the some of us might have sinned in the past, right? But we have each other, right? And we'll have each other moving forward. But I don't think Rena ever truly got over what happened, right? Not fully. How could you recover from that so quickly, right? And so when she meets Takano in the library and is handed the scrapbook, she's very easily impressionable at the time, I would say. Very easily impressionable. And so she starts to read all of these theories and really buy into them to a dangerous degree. And we kind of see them consume her, and she starts to alienate her friend group, and she's not trusting them even after that scene that we even after the family friends scene, which, it feels crazy, right? They just promised to band together, right? So, they kind of alienate each other, or she kind of alienates everyone and really starts, and then we get the last few episodes where, or last episode or two, where she's, really gone, actually properly crazy. She's rejected help from Keiichi. She's not trustful of anyone. She holds everyone hostage to try to deal with this situation. She's called the police, right? To try to get people on her side, to warn them of a potential bioterrorism attack, right? That is imminently coming, right? All of this, right? But the beauty in it is how well it mirrors Chapter 1. And that was by design, obviously. You couldn't really do that on accident so perfectly. But just the way that this time it's a very similar chapter, the back half of it, with if Keiichi and Rena swapped roles, right? If they just reversed positions. And I think what's what's really notable about that is not only do they perfectly mirror each other, Keiichi realizes this. He remembers Chapter 1 and realizes how perfectly this mirrors what he did right? And he is suddenly struck by the weight of his own sins, and he realizes everything that he did, and how his worldview was completely distorted, and how even when his friends were just trying to care for him, he couldn't view it as such. And oh my god, seeing some of those moments that from Keiichi's eyes, it was like there was a needle and there was like a drop of hot sauce, right? Like that was it. There was hot sauce in one of them. Right? When he swore up and down they were going to use a syringe to try and kill him, they were trying to write on his shirt to like be goofy, because that's what Mion does, right? Like, just seeing that, dude, that hit me, man. I'm not gonna lie, right? And like, because it hurt seeing what Keiichi did as a result of that, right? And it really makes you question so much, right? Like, I guess it doesn't really make you question that much. I lied. I don't know what it makes you question, but it really brings into context how much people, like, if you have whatever this craziness is, how much you will just take things out of context and how it affects your worldview. And it's fascinating, right? And I guess we already knew this, but we can kind of start applying this to other characters to an even greater degree. They straight up, it's not that it's like they straight up don't realize that they saw something, right? Keiichi, in the moment, did not at any point acknowledge that that was a marker, right? He did not acknowledge that Mion, like, whispered in his ear, like, get well soon, right? We know he remembers this, but it makes you wonder, when we saw Shion, what did she not see, right? From her perspective, right? Moments with Rena, there were a few moments where, one, like, there were the Sonozaki gangsters. She assumed they were the gangsters. They were apparently the police, right? Which makes sense, right? Now that I think about it. And so it's interesting. All of these characters had things they were just missing, right? I love that style of writing, right? That we know that this is kind of going on to a certain point, but it's always fascinating to see, right? Those biased narrators. I kind of really enjoy it. And there's a very good justification for it. I don't tend to love it, like, when authors leave something out like that intentionally, if there wasn't a good reason for it. I specifically think of the first case of... I don't think I can say that, actually. That kind of might start to lead to a spoiler. There's a certain game that I've played. If you know, you know. It's the third game of the series that I'm referring to. It's another kind of like... It has, like, murders and stuff, right? It's another, like, visual novel. If you know, you know, right? That's enough hint. Point is, in that game, they kind of have the narrator purposefully obfuscate some evidence from the reader that kind of indicates that they took certain actions that you straight up don't know about. And I'm like, that was a little different, right? I didn't like the justification for it there, but here I've really loved how they're hiding information from the readers, and each narrator is very biased, and they show this at points, right? With the scene in the school where Keiichi sees them talk to the gardeners, and then Rena sees them talk, like, Chie talk to the gardeners, and they interpret these very wildly differently. Also, some of the small details, and this is something a commenter pointed out, I kind of noticed it already, but watching as Rena's state of mind gets crazier, her text box, right, when we're from her perspective, it gradually grows more and more like pink and then red, right? And it's super cool to see a lot of I just love a lot of the small quirks of this chapter, and that's part of what I love so much, right? As an overall story, I honestly might prefer chapter 5, to be honest. I know. Oh, that's maybe a little crazy. But I love Shion's motivations, right? Like the love and lost and going crazy because of that. I'm like, that's just awesome. To me, I love that, like, I guess story, like theme, right? Character motivation, right? I think it's a very strong one. And so I really, really liked Shion a lot and so resonated with her. And she arguably is still my favorite character in the game. Like, even though she made literally no appearance this chapter that we know of, unless it was Mion randomly at some point. I don't know. And so, like, I don't know. A lot of the small things, this chapter did so freaking well, though. Between 6 and 5, I don't know which I prefer. I'll have to pick by the end of the game, right? I'll give you guys a proper chapters ranking once I beat all 8 chapters, but I don't really have it right now. But overall, this was an amazing chapter, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I have. I don't know when the next episode will be out because it's all extras, so maybe I take a day's break. It'll actually probably be out the next day because I recorded 2 videos today. I was intending to make this one video, and then this segment ended up being a little longer than I anticipated, which in retrospect was super obviously what was going to happen, but like, it is what it is. So this episode has been a little like, so like I said, I recorded 2 in one day because of that, and I'm just separating them. I've made the decision. I'm just going to separate them, so I'm going to have to record like an intro tomorrow, which is going to be funny. Recording the intro for this episode after I beat the chapter, whatever. So probably sometime before like the day this video drops at the latest, I will play the extras for this chapter, and then we're going to move on to chapter 7. Dude, I am so excited to see where we go from here. That tip right at the end, I will be thinking about that at work all day tomorrow and probably all day on Friday. Very fascinating stuff. What does it mean? Who was responsible for the Great Disaster? How much truth were there to Rena's statements this chapter? There's so much interesting stuff to unpack, and I'm super excited to do so. I know this is like a boy who cried wolf situation, me saying we're going to actually grind Higu this time. I swear to you, we are grinding Higu, right? We're at least getting through chapter 7. And if I get through chapter 7, I don't see how I can stop playing before I finish chapter 8. But I promise you we're at least getting through chapter 7, right? Before I take another break from this game. But I kind of want to just finish it so that I can go play Fate, right? Not because I'm not loving this game, right? But I'm also so excited to play Fate Hollow Ataraxia. Very, very excited for that. I have so many good VNs coming for you guys whenever I actually play them, man. That's the problem. I'm not 24/7 like in a VN kick, right? But it's going to be Higu. We're going to finish this up. Then we're going to go into Fate, which I'm excited for. I doubt I finish that in one go. There will be breaks, I can assure you. Maybe we get some Last Defense Academy weaved in it there at some point. I'm telling you guys right now, there's no way I can wait too long on Umineko, right? Or it's got Umineko's how you say that game's name, right? And I'm not saying that means I'm getting to it in a reasonable calendar time, but it will be coming up, right? Probably after the next Fate, whenever that finishes. Because, dude, I love this guy's work. Ryukishi is so damn good. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this finishes up. Actually, there's a bunch of bonus Higurashi chapters. I shouldn't plan for the future, man. Right? Because we're going into Fate after this. Maybe I'll end up doing some of the bonus Higu chapters as like for fun at some point. I don't know. I think I've heard you should really play chapter 9, actually. But I don't know. I literally don't know. So I guess let me know if I should, or I don't know if it was chapter 9. There was like a set of 3 arcs, I think, that are set, like that were released after the answer arcs, and that are, the very first one I think is really worth playing, and the next 2 I think I was told weren't as important. I don't know. We're reaching the point where I might actually need to know this, like if I need to play an extra chapter that might be important to plan for. So if so, let me know. I am at that point. But anyways, point is, this has been a great chapter. We are going to continue grinding Higu. I swear to you. There might be another break before I finish the game, but we're getting through chapter 7. I can tell you that much. But that's all I have time for tonight. Honestly, I shouldn't have even recorded this episode. I did a lot of recording today. Definitely more than I should have. But I had a ton of fun. Like I said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this as well. I hope you guys have enjoyed chapter 6 for as segmented as it was. I hope you guys are looking forward to chapter 7 in the same way that I am. But until that comes out, I hope to see you guys there. But until then, peace.